Alrighty, good evening everyone. How are you doing? How are the things and the stuff? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. Hopefully the sound is not a bit too wonky for everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and swap over so you can see everybody. Don't happy birthday right now. God. So how is everyone? Hope you're having a good evening. Hope things are going well for y'all. Oh my god, y'all are not gonna start this with birthdays and sandwiches. We're supposed to be serious tonight. What is even happening? Oh my god. Y'all tire me. Although it's not changing scenes and that bothers me a little bit. Unless it's just slow on my side. You guys can see everyone, yes? Hopefully you can see everyone. Yes, there we go. Oh god, I got scared for a second. I was like, why is this still on the starting screen? So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right into everything, just so everyone's aware of what's going on. I am Pleasantly Twisted. I'm gonna be your hostess with the mostest, running over the POC Charity Roundtable. Hopefully this will be one of several events that we have. I highly doubt that this will be the only time that we have a podcast around being a POC and charity. There's lots of topics that we could talk about extensively, but today we're just going to kick everything off by kind of talking about some of the trials and tribulations and things that we run into as people of color when we are actually doing charity streaming. And so the way that this whole thing actually got started is once upon a time on Twitter, of course Twitter, because why wouldn't it be Twitter? Someone reached out wanting answers for why people of color were less involved with charity streaming. And this came across my dashboard, which anyone who knows me will tell you, keeping my opinion to myself is really something that I'm a big failure at. So this came across my feed and I immediately jumped in and was like, oh, I could have a conversation about that for probably the next 820 years. Easily. And so we started talking back and forth. It turns out the person who was asking that question works for Twitch, and I took it upon myself to say, you know what? The way that the optics and stuff work, I'm going to go ahead and just throw out a question. And I threw out a question back in October saying, POC only, who wants to get together for a small chat about possibly problems and issues we run into as streamers of color. I was expecting this thread to maybe get about 6 or 7 people, and it wound up getting the upwards of about 300 retweets and about 300 or so comments. And I didn't realize right then and there that I had a project on my hands. So with that being said, and this is actually causing me a few issues. With that being said, I sent out a little survey for people to fill out. They looked at the questions, got a lot of good feedback on that, and this is where we are today on December 19th, having a charity roundtable with a couple of people who actually filled out the survey. So for those of you who don't know much about me, again, I'm Pleasantly Twisted, and I do variety streaming over at what I lovingly call the Wine Cellar. My background is I've done some charity streams for the last year. I've worked with the Trevor Project, I've worked with St. Jude Play Live, and I've also worked with To Write Love on Our Arms. And so charity became something that was very near and dear to my heart, so much so that I apparently am running charity roundtables now. So it has been a wild ride. I'm happy with it. I'm really excited for the opportunity to do all of this, and I'm very happy. How you doing, Reef? I'm very happy with how everything has been coming together. And with that being said, I wanted to go ahead and give everyone on the podcast a few moments to actually talk about themselves and introduce themselves to everybody, because these are, again, people who participated in the survey and have lots to say about the topic of being a person of color in charity streaming. So without further ado, I will go ahead and start off with MajorLinux. If you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Marcus Summers, MajorLinux. I primarily play and raise money for Extra Life, a gaming-based charitable organization that is a part of the Children's Miracle Network. Not only do I play games, do the actual fundraising bit, I am the team lead for the official Extra Life stream team, or actually the team admin, one of 2 team admins, so top dog outside of official Extra Life employees. I am one of the mods for their Discord server and their forums. I also am the guild president or local chapter president for a local recruitment arm here in the Raleigh-Durham area of North Carolina. And what we do there is we go to various conventions or events and try to recruit people to raise funds for Extra Life. I've been doing all this for about 5 years now. It's gotten to a point where, especially here in my market, things have been dwindling down to where there's like 3 of us, and it's the same 3 people who have been kind of doing this over and over and over. I feel fortunate that I'm not the only Black person who is in this organization, or at least in my local organization. But when thinking about the amount of Black people who are people of color that are in Extra Life in general, like I can count them on 2 hands. I've only met like maybe 10 people that look like me or don't look like everybody else that I see that represents the organization. So yeah, definitely I'm glad to be here to kind of share my experiences and kind of learn from the rest of you guys. What's going on?
Excellent. Good. And then next person I'm going to have is the FirstGonah. If you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience in charity streaming.
So my name's Gona Hawking. First and foremost, for me, my actual job is ELA teacher. And so it's one of those, anything that I do is a hobby, but at the same time, it's such a wonderful hobby. And so I have been on streams, but oh my gosh, not nearly as awesome as Linux over here. But I have been on a couple of streams in order to try and raise awareness of the local convention that I was on. I was the social media coordinator and all that kind of stuff, talking about D&D. I'm also currently the president of our local D&D club, the River Valley Gamers, hoping people from our group are in here, as well as just DMing at conventions. So I have not streamed myself as much, but I've been on other people's streams here and there.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. Next, we have a latecomer, but still someone with a very, very impressive and happy and fulfilling, reading your background made me so warm and fuzzy, especially considering everything going on today. MiladyConfetti, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. My name is MiladyConfetti. I mostly stream a game called Dead by Daylight. I've actually been on kind of a 3-week hiatus just for my own mental and spiritual health, but I'm easing my way back into society gently. I'm on Team Rock Squad, which does a lot of charities all year round. A big one that we do is St. Jude Play Live. A cool thing, we were able to raise about $40,000 as a team for St. Jude Play Live. So I think that was really awesome that we did as a team. Outside of that, I also raise money for the 1000 Dreams Fund, which is a charity organization that focuses on raising money for women and women who also are students in STEAM fields. So they've also expanded that to the arts, which I think is very important. Mm-hmm. And I also do the monthly broadcaster lives, just where we get to interview women that are in the industry and also a grant winner who gets to talk about their experience, what they do with their grant. The last one that we did was with Gothics. And then before that, we actually did on-site reviews with interviews at TwitchCon. Outside of that, I actually work for a university. I'm really big at social justice work. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So that is, a lot of charity work gets attached to that. So I do a lot of stuff IRL as well.
Excellent. Awesome. And then last but not least is Powrdragn, if you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Daquan Watson, Powrdragn, which I've been using that handle for, 25 years or something now, it feels like. But most of my experience actually is in physical tabletop stuff, and I'm just kind of recently really pushing a lot of stuff in the digital space. I actually ran a retail game store for 15 years and did a ton of community stuff through that. So a lot of after-school programs we raised some money for. We've done stuff. I have worked with some people for some extra life stuff, and I'm probably going to do that this next year just myself through my own Twitch stuff. But also Project Angel Tree, which raises money for kids whose parents are incarcerated. You know, we did stuff with them for a couple of years. So a few different things so I'm coming at this a little bit of a different perspective that, you know, I'm kind of looking at history I have helping raise money or run some of these things for physical events, and then now kind of how that transitions to the digital space and kind of what I'm seeing is difficulties and different things talking to people as I'm sort of stepping into that realm. So it'd be a little bit of a different perspective coming from my side.
And so that was actually something that I did on purpose when I was selecting people for the podcast, because I didn't want to get into the trap of getting just like 4 streamers who are all from the exact same backgrounds, exact same spaces, and it's going to be like, okay, so we're all just going to echo each other. That's cool, I guess. And then it doesn't really feel like it's fulfilling for many people outside of just all of us talking. I'm very happy that all of our backgrounds are extremely diverse, and we're going to be coming at it from different angles, because again, I think from what it sounds like, even though I'm the host, I might be the freshman class for everyone that's actually here, because I know we've got people who are actually in education, people who are doing things from the sorority standpoint and have been doing it for years on end. You've got 5 years of experience, and then you're actually talking about doing things on multiple media and whatnot, and then there's just me who kind of hangs out on Twitch every now and again, and I'm just like, so charity's nice. Charity's cool, I guess. But again, it's something that I'm very, very passionate about, and I got really, really into it. Like, I'm someone that once I'm into it, I don't know how to just kind of try it a little bit and see how I am. I kind of like go running face first and then knee deep into it, and it's usually when I'm up to here that I'm like, I don't know if I like this or not. And it turns out that wasn't the case for this. That being said, I did want to let everybody watching know that we are going to be raising money at this time. You can see it at the very top. You can see it at the top. We are going to be raising money this entire time for Trans Lifeline. With that being said, if you are not familiar with them, Trans Lifeline is an organization that is focused around the safety, knowledge gaining, and also just well-being of trans people and extending to that LGBTQ populations. It's something that's very, very close and dear to my heart too, as a member of the LGBTQ IAP community. And so we definitely wanted to try and knock out 2 things at once, because we want to help them, but we also want to talk about our experiences being people of color. And unfortunately, I am probably going to have to leave the music off because it sounds like it's causing a lot of echo issues. It's causing a lot of problems. So you'll just have to live with the soothing and wonderful sound of all of our voices coming through this wonderful, semi-expensive Yeti microphone and Discord. But
it's okay. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say, so it's fine.
I was gonna say, I'm of the
try to
mind that
beatbox
given
if
the
that
survey
helps.
data and everything else that we were doing, I'm pretty sure that we will have plenty to talk about. I was like, I almost lost the camera for a second. It was like, no, not right now. Oh my God. Huh? Okay, I'm gonna look at that in a second. So, one of the first things I wanted to talk about was advertising in this kind of space. And I feel like the advertising aspect is like one of the really big overarching conversation pieces that you can have. Because again, I've been streaming for 2 years, but I've been doing charity focused stuff for about a year. And one of the things that I think burnt me up the most was that if it wasn't, I'll just go ahead and keep it very transparent. If it wasn't St. Jude or an organization I had known about a long time ago, I never see it. Like, I literally never see it. I never hear about it. I think it wasn't until I started looking into doing the roundtable and had a lot of it up and running that I had, I think, Starlight US reach out to me and say, hey, we want you to raise money for charity, which was great, except I was literally knee deep in doing this already. Top that off with like my general stream schedule, freelance work, I work a 9 to 5, all sorts of other stuff, and I was like, this had to have been the worst timing ever. But for the most part, I noticed that people didn't really advertise a lot, and I didn't know if that had to do with my space. I didn't know if that had to do with like the actual people I keep around and everything else. And, you know, on top of all of that, I also noticed that it was kind of like the same thing over and over when the advertising came through. You know, very generic, milquetoast, straightforward, just okay, here's something to raise money. And it was never really like a lot of information. It was never really something that made me feel like it was for everyone, but I don't know how to really define that further into words or if people understand what I'm saying.
I would say that sometimes when I've spoken with people about how they're advertising or what they're putting out there, sometimes the black community isn't really considered a target demographic, especially with stuff related to the gaming industry, because I think we're still kind of exploring that space where we have more black people becoming more prevalent, in the gaming community. So it's just now becoming a thing that's considered. I mean, even earlier today, I was just sharing a tweet from somebody that it was a big deal that there was just a normal looking black person in the most recent BattleTech game with a normal name, nothing special going on. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we're just now in that space. So that may be one of the reasons you didn't see a lot of that coming through. It comes through our social circles with just kind of the generic flash ad, I guess, with just like the bare minimum, not expecting necessarily that community to be that interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's like kind of the same conversation piece too, because, and Confetti kind of touched on this a little bit as well, between the combination of not seeing like a lot of black people, but also seeing if you saw women, it was traditionally like very, for lack of better phrasing, attractive white women. And even then they were few and far between. It's like, I don't know if I can partake in this. Should I partake in this? Am I going to be disruptive? Like, what's going on here? And then especially considering like in some of these cases, if you didn't see it, then you already were starting off poorly. But then you would see it and then not be sure if you could reach out or anything. And some of these people too, it's like the communications aren't that great, you know? Like I've tried reaching out to places where I'm like, hey, is this still something that's going on and something that we're interested in? And it's 3 weeks later and I still haven't got a response. And I'm just like, okay. But then I see like all these other people all of a sudden they're just like, we had a great charity stream with so and all these other groups. And I'm like, but my inbox message was, okay, no, that's fine. This is perfectly fine, I suppose. And I'm kind of just in the mindset now where, as you said, Powrdragn, we're starting to hit that point where we can start looking more into those types of spaces, getting more people of color, especially women of color and, LGBTQ of color and things of that nature. But I noticed that there's this weird aversion, right? There's this weird aversion where people don't want to put us on posters because they're afraid of, and Confetti immediately is like, this part. They don't want to put us on posters because they're afraid of the backlash.
So they put the token.
Yeah. And that's actually, I've been talking about that on Twitter for like the last couple of days. And it's this really weird mixed bag of, I want to be on there because, it will help with visibility. It'll help with accessibility. It'll help with making it feel like everyone's a part of it. But then at the same time, I don't want to become tokenized. And now it's just going to be this over and over. But then I know in talking to some companies, another thing, and I've been kind of talking about this and saying people need to get over this hump of being afraid of putting a person of color on their advertising and then saying, oh, well, what if people come back and say like they complain about it?
I mean, because I guess that's ultimately up to the organization if they want to be really for people. Because specifically, I only help with 2 charities online, so it's going to be probably very obvious what I'm talking about. But these aren't concerns that I have not brought up in the past. But when I was introduced to the 1000 Dreams Fund, it was actually TwitchCon last year, and it was from my friend Jay, who was like, you should just do this thing. They give out, grants for women. You should try this out. And that was my first introduction to them. And I had so much hesitancy with placing my application for my grant because my application was actually very Black focused. It was about Black women things, Black women. Like that's what and I did not shy away from that. So when I hear people say oh, we're here, we want to raise money for women, and then you want to show up in that space and be who you are as a woman, because my blackness and my womanness, like that, they're not separate things. They are who I am. So that's how I'm always going to present. That's always what I'm going to lead. But with the organization, it's like, yeah, we want the face of you, but do you actually value all of me and how I come across the threshold? Do you really want to stand in that and be with that and say, I am your ally? And sometimes, that's, do you value the Black dollar? Like, because, we have money too, and we show up for charities. For Delta Sigma Theta, most of the people who come to our charity events and a lot of people who show up for these things are people who look like me. So I think that's ultimately on the organization. It's like, how do you define your allyship?
And
but usually when it stops short of something, you're not an ally anymore. It's, being there and showing up for everybody and meaning that. And it's not going to take one token Black person to be on your brochures.
And it always,
what were you about to say, Ghana?
It always seems to be like, we'll follow you as a person of color to this point. Like, and
right.
it's always that same aesthetic of, if you are white enough, we'll allow you in. If you are like us enough, we will let you in, as opposed to accepting that, like, obviously we're all gamers. Obviously we're all super big nerds. And it's still not enough that we love this stuff, that we love this charity. We also apparently have to act and speak a certain way.
Yes.
And so, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because because it's so performative, and because even in these, because I've had so many opportunities, and I'm so appreciative to the 1000 Dreams Fund, but I will say code switching is the most exhausting thing that I get up and do every day when I walk into my job. It's the most exhausting thing when I go into Walmart to buy a roll of toilet paper, because I know that I have to perform in spaces that were not built for me. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want to be like, I always get afraid of like being too Black or being too pro-Black, because that is where fear comes in. And it's like, well, I'm in this arena owned by this big company conglomerate, so how do I present myself? How do I balance that line? And that was most of why I was exhausted that one day that I was in Vegas, because I was like, I'm trying to like teeter on who I am and who they want me to be. And it was like really, because I wasn't there for that. I was there, for, raising money for women and, bringing and passing the baton on to somebody else. That's what I was there for. Not to be like teetering in the line of like, your Blackness is a bit too much, because I know it always comes out, because I can't hide it. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. And then I think, me, go ahead. Yeah, like I was just about to say, I think you had something.
Like, I've had to kind of step out of that. Like, from being in Extra Life for so long, like I mean, I could say I do much of anything else, but it's Extra Life all day for me. Being in Extra Life for so long, like that was a big thing for me, was having to code switch, having to try to appease so many people who weren't like me when I was in these spaces, when I was in the Discord, when I'm doing the Twitch streams for the channel, when I'm representing Extra Life. That became really exhausting. Like I said, I've been in these public spaces for about 5 years. I've been doing Extra Life as a whole for 10. So it's like, I've been doing that for so long that like this year I was like, no, this stops now. I need to be me, and I need to make sure that when I represent myself, I have to be myself first and foremost. This is who I am, and you're going to have to accept it. I do give Extra Life some props though. Normally a lot of their advertisement, when they try to recruit people, try to tell people, hey, come to this thing, or hey, raise funds for us, there was never people that looked like me that was on these advertisements. I applaud them this year. Not only did they add one, they added 3. I am one of them, and I initially, when I actually had to go back and look at the video a few seconds ago, because I thought I was the only one. But they at least did include Day to Day. Shouts out to Day to Day. Shouts out to DJ Knight. They were both Extra Life ambassadors for Extra Life United this year. So they include, like, there are 3 of us in a video for the first time. I think it's the first time any Black people have been in an Extra Life video that wasn't a miracle kid or a miracle child. And it made me feel good seeing it, because like, all right, at least now I have a place in there. I see I mean, granted, it's me. It's like looking in a mirror at this point, but I see somebody that looks like me at this event to where I feel like I can go back again. When I went back in 2016 for the first time, like I was the only black person there. And it's like I didn't know what to do, I didn't know who to hang out with. So I just kind of kept to myself. But it was nice to see after taking like 3-year break, coming back in 2019, that there were a small group of people. I was able to shouts out to Cyforce. I'm not sure where he is right now. I'm not sure if he's in the chat, but he lived in Orlando where the event was. He came out. So I already had a Cookout member to hang out with that weekend. And then not to mention DJ night day to day to hang out with. We also recruited somebody, another token black person who's just standing around. We said, look, bro, we've got this amazing community. You will love it here. And sure enough, like within the next month or so, we approved his application he was in. And I was actually I was able to even talk him into being on the stream team because again, only black person on that team. I was so glad to bring him in so that way I could actually take a break. So that way I wouldn't have to keep doing this just so there would be some sort of representation for us on that channel. And it felt good to finally have somebody else, someone that looked like me that can kind of help carry this load that we shouldn't have to carry. But if we didn't, who is?
Exactly.
You know, there's something interesting really if you're somebody that's manning or I guess heading some of these charities, think about the fact that women, people of color, the LGBT community, they've been through some struggles, right? We've been through things. All of us on here have been through a lot, dealt with a lot. Like, if there's an opportunity for us to use our platforms, we are absolutely going to want to support your efforts to help other people. So we should be some of the people that are targeted, that you want to get involved, to want to raise money, or at the very least, if we can't raise money, bring awareness to what you're doing so other people will pitch in money, whatever the case is. It's not just looking at the most present people, I guess. It's kind of looking at the community as a whole and the people that will put in a lot of effort. And some of them may not be the most obvious people, but they're still out there and hardworking.
I mean, because I found that for doing this for about 10 years, it's hard to get black dollars donated. It was hard for me to get those money. I still can't get that money. A lot of it still was a lot of white money that was coming in. And then when I guess, quote unquote, got woke and then actually started talking about black issues, that went away. So not only was I not getting black money, I definitely wasn't getting white money. I think that if they start putting more people of color in the forefront, a lot more diverse people in the forefront, advertising to more than just what they consider their target demographic is, they can not only get people to participate to help raise that money, because there's more people that look like them who are actually participating, they can probably get those dollars in, those diverse dollars in. Like, we're all diverse, we're all different races, nationalities, but all of our money is green. So
on some point, what you're saying is maybe measure it, right? Like, yeah, you will lose a few, right? Like when I go post about my podcast over on Reddit or whatever, yeah, we get some downvotes, even though we're not actually, poking at anybody. But you will gain more in people coming to you that weren't there before, that are willing to give money, willing to give time, which is going to be greater than that little bit you're going to lose.
And with that kind of being said, on that same tangent, kind of looping it back even with the advertising aspect, that's kind of why I brought up the whole aspect of, oh, well, we're afraid of the backlash, because I've actually talked to, and this isn't even just in the charity space, this is any space where I want to get like sponsorships or any type of signal boosting. And I try to bring this stuff up and they're like, well, we're just afraid that if we do something like make a call for just people of color or just women or just a certain marginalized demographic, we might have people with backlash. And at this point in the game, I don't know how else to really explain that. Yeah, you're going to have backlash, but that backlash is going to be so minuscule in comparison to the actual impact you're going to have over the long term of things. I completely understand. You don't want to put my black face with big white curls and all that stuff on your advertisement because you're afraid of Joe Schmo who's going to come in and be like, well, don't you think advertising just for women and black people is a bit sexist and racist? I mean, I don't know what to tell you at this point, but that's what you got to start doing if you want to get more of us in those spaces, especially considering, and I don't want to be rude when I say this, but I don't know how else to say it. There's going to be no shortage of white people. There's going to be no shortage of them. You say what?
They just crawl out the woodwork.
Bro, I would say there's going to be no shortage of them. So trust me when I say that you're going to get like that pocket of angry people. You are absolutely correct. But the people who are here for the cause, the people who understand what's happening, the people who get it on a like at least a mid-tier level, they're not going to be tripping off of the fact that you have a brown face or someone IDing as a woman up on these flyers. They're going to be looking at, oh, this is a cause that I'm into. This is something I want to help benefit. And they're trying to be more inclusive. Okay, there's nothing to really complain about here. I mean, I don't want to make it as simple and watered down as just start blocking people. But, kind of start blocking people.
Look, as an admin for a stream team, like, no, that's what you do. That is what you do. You block, like, for these big events where we are streaming, we've had haters come in. Again, black children that show up on stage that are dealing with life-threatening illnesses and injuries, and you have haters come in and just start being racist. Like, no, you block first, you ask questions later. Yeah, like I'm not afraid of that block button, and like if anybody on that team has any questions for me as to why I did it, oh, I'll be more than happy. Like, we're gonna have a lesson today. We're gonna learn something today.
Yeah. And, there's also the aspect of the education behind it too. Because again, the whole way that this got started was someone approached me, and the person who approached me was not a person of color. And so, it's about understanding that, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable walking out of that comfort zone and being like, hey, I know this is awkward, but can I get your feedback on this? And as we're kind of evidencing here, we're not afraid to talk. We're not afraid to explain and engage stuff. It's when people want to come at you sideways and make things up and do all the extra stuff that you start getting a little bit of that energy returned. But for the most part, if you're trying to at least make the effort, there's not going to be a whole lot of brackishness or brattiness and all this other stuff. We just want to be included. And that means that, and I say this all the time on Twitter, that means that you have to make space for us to be included. You have to make that space. And that means,
Oh, I was like, and it sucks, like, for that space to be made. It's kind of like you have to, like, prove the value of it to said organization of why you should be here. Because, when you're talking about advertising and, whether it's like paper or just media or video and like what's going out there, there's also like that beauty aspect of what they're putting out there. The standard of beauty isn't somebody who looks like me. Even makeup flawless and all. I'm not the standard of beauty. So when you're putting, somebody's face on an advertisement, on a poster, what's the face or the thing that's going to catch people's eye? It's typically a white woman with long blonde hair and blue eyes looking into the distance or something like that. But that's typically the standard of beauty. So, I mean, that's the truth.
I know. It's just the thing is, as you were saying that, I immediately got the visual of like, it's the classic influencer shot of like that exact woman in like the flowing, billowing skirt. And it's like all the wind that's gently brushing things away in the open field. And I'm like, I don't like that this image immediately popped in my head. Like, this actually makes me mildly uncomfortable. That's why I just started laughing. It's like, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
The crazy part about that image is it's not even what the average even white woman looks like.
Right.
Like, that's what's really crazy.
Right. And so it's just like, it's this weird dynamic that's like, you have to appeal to this certain aesthetic and this certain feel and this certain look, but it doesn't even reflect what's going on. And I think that's another piece of that conversation that needs to come out too. And it's like, diversifying even just your advertising, even just your visibility and stuff, that doesn't do anything but reflect the actual populations that are being involved. Like, the Cookout literally exists. So you can't say, oh, well, we just didn't know if any black people were going to be interested. I have a whole team of black people that are like, existing, and we're here, and we want to do stuff, and we want to raise more money, and we want to like be parts of things and all this other stuff. And you're telling me that you can't find our entire squad? Like,
because I think it's not only just the existence, it's also the influence that's behind you. Because I think with black people, especially when you present as yourself, you can't just like present and be like, I'm here and I want to do this. Not like, I'm not saying like you can't, but I'm saying maybe in the mind of an advertiser, somebody of an organization that is looking like, oh, I want to work with influencers. So what's the influence that you're bringing? You know, there's people who, you know, partners versus affiliates. What's the pool of somebody who has an average view count of 500 versus 15? So it's like, you have to like present this whole well-rounded sculpted package on top of your blackness to be presented and be maybe put on the advertisements, maybe to get the front page spot. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not just like, it's all like connected, and it's annoying. I understand the science and I understand the algorithm behind it, but what can you do to push beyond those small caveats?
Right. And so I didn't say this in my intro and stuff too, because now you're speaking things that particularly interest me, because I have my master's in data analytics and research.
Oh,
so
cool.
You talking about numbers and stuff, and I'm like, oh, we can talk about data, because it kind of all loops around back to that exact same conversation point. The only way you're going to start changing that output makeup is if and only if you're willing to actually start changing what you're inputting. You got to start doing it. And that's what I mean for like all these organizations and stuff that are involved in it too. You got to start doing those things where you step out that comfort zone and be like, okay, we're about to do St. Jude Play Live for the summertime like we do every single time. This is a call out for a POC who are interested in being in advertising campaigns, who are interested in being in videos, and blah, 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 blah. And yes, you're going to get Joe Schmo, like I said, who's going to come through on your Twitter feed or wherever and be like, I don't think that's very fair. Trust me when I say that even if 600 of us show up with comments, that when that video gets produced, there's still only going to be about 4 or 5 of us in there for the total head count of about 50. So don't fret, don't worry. We're not going to come in here and over black it. You'll be fine. They're just trying to make sure that they actually have some decent representation. And it even falls in the same category for things like, again, specifically people of color, specifically women of color. We can make that further. LGBTQIAP people, disabled people, all sorts of stuff. You gotta do it. You have to be willing to take that step. And like, you know, a lot of them don't put that science together like you were talking about, where it's like when you start doing that, it will start attracting other people. It's going to lose those few people who are just like, oh, this is racist. Okay, cool. You can think that. Go over there and do whatever you need to do. Be mad about it. That's cool. I'm 33 years old. I have been mad plenty of times in my life. I understand how you feel. Just go over there. Be mad. And then we're going to keep doing the stuff we need to do over here. Especially considering they don't think about the dynamic that has, because you start seeing more of yourself in things.
Right.
And now you want to actually start getting engaged in things. We have this conversation with marketing and stuff, and we're talking about things even as simple as like Barbie. Oh, how do we get more black girls to buy Barbie? You make a black Barbie. Wild take, right? Like, they want to see themselves and stuff. We have this conversation. We have this conversation in gaming all the time. Well, why do black people want to see like black women in, and I hate to bring them up, but I have to do it. Why do we want to see a black woman in Overwatch? Because we exist. We're part of your player base. We are real people breathing real air, spending real dollary dues, playing your game. And we would like to be represented more than just like some background figure, some plot point that's kind of important, or something that's mildly adjacent.
Or a PR stunt to, you know, block. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, you know,
I'm fine.
one of the
Did
things,
you even get her shine?
one of the things I'll say too is that one of the things we've encountered with we'll call it the paper space versus the digital space, is you don't have enough diversity even in just the decision makers on different groups.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had situations where I've gone to conventions to watch a presentation on increasing diversity within the gaming community or whatever, and it's honestly just a group of white males. Like, how are you going to have all the perspectives when they're all able-bodied? There's no women, there's no people of color, there's no gay people on the panel. Like, you also need that in these charity groups, right? If you have a diverse group of decision makers, they can also give you input on who to reach out to or find those communities you may not know about or what may speak to a certain group to get them interested. Whatever it is to help you get that extra reach. So it kind of almost just starts at the top of giving yourself a shot at even finding all those people.
Mm-hmm. And,
And
it again, it's just one of those things. It's like, you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to start when TwitchCon comes around and you want to try and recruit more streamers. You need to have one of us that are posted on this podcast at your table for a shift. Put one of us on that flyer. Have one of us walking around and doing stuff, because it just helps. I just don't know how to express any further that it helps everything in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. You get more visibility, you get more traction, you get more people who are involved. And then on top of that, you get, dare I say, more dollars. Because as Linux said earlier, it doesn't even matter at that level. Everybody got the exact same money. Everyone has the exact same money. So what real functionality is there in kind of looking entire populations in the face and being like, well, I don't care about your money. Really? We live in capitalism. Are you sure that's the route you want to go? I don't think that's really what you meant to say, but go off, I guess, type of thing. So that kind of ties us into something else important about that entire topic that I have been wanting to kind of get into as well. We've kind of gotten into it a little bit already, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into it too. We've talked about how people have advertised and how we're perceived and how it looks. But now I want to talk a little bit too about general engagement. And I touched on this a little bit earlier. Things like, I've reached out to charity organizations, and when I get radio silence, I'm just immediately like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. When I see you raising money for causes, I want to be involved, but you're not letting me. And we've kind of touched a little bit more on engagement too, with, how they're advertising, how they're reaching out to us or not, and things of that nature. But I also want to talk a little bit about like some of the stuff that you've seen in general. Like, have you ever tried reaching out to them in a public sphere and just gotten like stonewalled? Have you tried like actually trying to have a conversation and then having the conversation and nothing comes from it? What are some experiences we've had with like actual engagement with charities? Sorry, I have my eyelashes in my eye.
Yeah, I would say. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So like I said, I was the social media person for a semi-local convention, and it was one of those, like, I felt like it was happening where I would make a suggestion of, hey, what if we do this, or what if we go here, or what if we, and I would get shot down. But then if someone like backed me up, or someone said the exact same thing with a little bit different wording, the leader at the time would say, oh yeah, let's do that. And like, we all have that thing in the back of our head where we're like, no, we're not, it's not that. It can't be that. Mm-hmm. And it turns out, like, after that convention happened, a whole lot of fallout, stuff I'm not going into, but someone like stood in front of everyone and said, yeah, no, he treated her like, can't swear, so, treated me like sugar shoots. And it was one of those like, oh, cool. So was it because, why? Because again, woman of color, LGBTQ woman. So like, there's so many boxes. I'm not sure exactly why this happened, but I'm sure it's happened to all of us, where it's just like, oh, cool. You can sit at the table, but like, shh.
And I feel like that's a really good descriptor of it too, because I kind of had something similar happen earlier in the year with one of the organizations I was working with, where like, I'm going to still work with them. Don't get me wrong. It's not so deep in that I'm like, oh, you're 86. But I know too that that may be something that happens in the future with some organization. But I had something similar happen too, where like somebody kind of came at me sideways about things, and I brought it to their lead's attention. And I'm like, hey, can we check this in any way, shape, or form? Or can we maybe make a quick powwow and be like, hey, can you not do these types of things? And the response I got on a very, very plain level was, well, we don't want to mess with it too much because they're a mentor. And I'm just like, okay, but I'm pointing out to you that what one of your mentors did is hugely problematic and makes me feel unwelcome. And when you tell me, oh, but they're a mentor, what you're also telling me is that I am not important, I am not high ranking enough, and that I am irrelevant to your cause. And, I don't have to say that obviously this person was not a person of color. They were not a woman. And I just kind of sat there and was like, but see, this is kind of part of that whole overarching conversation of why you don't have more women and you don't have more people of color. Because I'm trying to explain to you something that's going on internally, and your response was literally to just kind of shove it off. So now I'm stuck here to feel like I'm slighted, to feel like I'm irrelevant, to feel like I'm pretty much just a face, and that's it, because I'm not a mentor. But now at the same time, if we wanted to be savagely honest about it, as we can see for why one of our guests isn't here today, I also feel like as people of color, as women, as minorities, those standards also kind of shift a little bit, because I know had I done the exact same thing this person did, the swiftness in which I would have been pulled to the side and been like, Vanessa, you need to hold your horses is unreal. And so I don't think people really, it's an internalized bias thing, I'm very aware, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about it. We need to talk about the stuff that, this is just conditioning and things that you've dealt with, but now you're actually injecting it into these spaces, and now you're trying to recruit more of us, but then wondering why we won't stay. And I've seen this even on things like, stream teams. I've seen this in workplaces where they're like, we want to make a big diversity push. One of the topics that came up that was really important in the survey that I thought we need to touch on too, there's also the conversation around when you engage us. I'm going to say something as plainly as I possibly can. Black people exist beyond February.
Yo, for real.
Black people exist beyond February. Like, I don't know. I get it. It's Black History Month, and that's cool, great, awesome. But there's a whole nother 11 months in the year that we exist too. So when
honestly,
you approach us...
If I'm being real, if you never really reach out or do anything else, and you only do it in February, it kind of just comes off as placating, and I don't really care.
That part. It's exactly that part. And, it's in a really difficult spot too, because we can't really say that all the time, right? Because then it becomes immediately, oh, so you don't appreciate this. And it's like, no, I appreciate that you reach out to me, finally, but it's a convenience thing now. You're doing it because this is that month where you're supposed to care about it. So what
does
about...
it still matter on March 1st? That's the thing.
Yeah, we still matter on March 1st. We still matter out in like later months of the year. We still matter right now. And the thing is, like, I feel like for some of us too, I don't know why we have this flicker issue going on. I feel like for some of us too, it's almost like an anxiety thing where when it hits January 31st and you get involved in these types of things, you just kind of quietly start looking at your inbox, waiting for that message to come in, being like, oh, I still got 10 minutes before it's February. Hang on. Mm-hmm. And there it is. Yep. They just found me. We exist outside of February. We are here year round. You don't have to wait till February to come get us. You don't have to wait till Indigenous Peoples Month to reach out to Indigenous people. Trust me, I follow all types of Indigenous Twitter. They out there doing the things and the stuff, and they're wanting and willing to help. But you wait until like certain things to come around to be like, oh, okay, well, we want your help now. We here year round though. We're here year round. And it just
Like-
it's oh, someone's trying to say something.
No, I was gonna say, coming back to where you're talking about people having conversations and stuff not coming from it. One of the things I learned early, because I was in a weird spot because I got into the game industry when I was 21. At a time where there were no black business owners in the game industry at all. And I was a young, dumb 21-year-old kid. So, I'm headstrong, indestructible, whatever. And what I realized early on is there were people that were just like, oh, okay, are you really in this? Or where'd you come from? Like, your perspectives are way different. So I realized even back then that when I had come forward with an idea, I had to way flesh it out. I had to come down, okay, what am I expecting the cost? What's the attendance? How are we going to do promotion? How many people am I going to have involved? Like, I had to bring all this to the table to even get somebody to pay attention to prove that I knew what I was talking about. Like, I wasn't just somebody with an idea versus other times where I watched other guys that were, 30, 40 years old, been around for a while, hadn't really done anything, but they're like, oh, well, I have this idea. And they just go down, get a contract with no problem. Like, I went to run events with the city, and literally I brought basically a playbook on this is what's going to happen. This is how I need the room set up, and after that first event or two went off, then I could walk down there and just ask for whatever. Like, hey, I need a date. I have this thing I want to do. And then from then on, it was fine. But to break through that first time or two, I had to really come prepared, and it felt unfair. I mean, really, but
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things I just learned early on, which is unfortunate.
And
Twice as hard.
yeah, and I have another point that I wanted to bring in, but I actually had a question sneak through on the back end because again, I'm trying my best to field questions. You guys have probably seen me on the camera. I'm like looking here, talking, and then I'm over here, and then I'm here, and that's just how I operate. I'm sorry if it seems like I'm disengaged, but I promise you, I'm engaged in here. I'm just all over the place. Someone actually came through with a question too about wanting to hear perspective on the following. So, how do we feel about, let's say an organization brings on one of us from this podcast. They're watching right now and they're like, wow, we really like these people and they're really inspiring and they're great. They're awesome, blah, 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 all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden you are the one that's on the flyer, but you notice over the next year, you're the only one that's on the flyer and you're consistently the one that they lean on and you're consistently the one that's repeated and you're consistently the one that's being asked. Because I have my thoughts, but I wanted to let other people get their thoughts out on that too, on
Who
like
wants to
using
tackle
the
this so I don't
same
dominate
person.
the conversation?
You say what?
I think of it. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think I like to think of this very much as like a table metaphor, language arts teacher thing, but we're always like trying to get that seat at the table. Well, guess what? When you in the cafeteria, you find the seat, you also invite your friends.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, like, I have no doubt all of us, if we get onto something and we end up being the token, we're going to start being like, oh, by the way, this person who is also a person of color, or this person who is also a female gamer, this person who is also LGBTQIA, like, we gotta unfortunately speak up. We gotta invite. We gotta make sure that our crowd, like our crew, sit together.
Yeah. I know Miss Ash Rocks was that person for me when it came to introducing me to people and just saying like, hey, like, here's this person. It was me. So I know like she was definitely that person for me. And then, I tried to be that for other people. Because I know that we were talking about like, working with organizations, not necessarily because I don't had a lot of people who reach out to me as far as like as a digital space, more so like for Delta, because, that's a very specific thing in like the city and people know what we're doing. But when I know we were planning a broadcaster event and I got to sit in some of the planning for like what each topic would be about. And one of them I said, it needs to be about Black women. We just need to talk about that. And, there was an incident that happened with Miss Ash Rocks on a GTA server. And I was like, we need to talk about this and why it's important to have that representation. But not only did we bring her, we brought her mother too, because now she's this support person who's seeing her daughter go through all of this. And, you know, what's that aspect about? And it wasn't received poorly, but I was gently reminded to make sure to, you know, to put out there that the grant was for all women. And I said, yeah, but today we're talking about this. And that is just as important as everything else. And it deserves a spotlight.
And especially because I'm going to
always the
piggyback
fear.
that because I know exactly which incident you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know precisely which one you're talking about. I think it's also important too when they try to do that whole shoehorning thing. Was like, well, this is for all women. It's like, you know what? You're absolutely correct. But I'm talking about this aspect because this aspect specifically impacts women of color. Like, don't get me wrong. White women deal with stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. But they're not going to deal with stuff in the same magnitude that black women will. So we need to talk about that stuff. It's intersectionality 101.
Right.
It's intersectionality 101 is what it is. And so it especially puts a really tight grip on things when we don't want to have those conversations as they pertain to people of color or women of color in that case.
Right.
But we still want to have a conversation about getting more women of color. But now, and I'm not going to speak for Miss Ash Rocks because I don't know, but if I were in her position, that makes me feel very gun shy about trying to bring on more women of color because of how I've been treated.
That aspect she wasn't a part of. I just invited her and said, "Can you bring your mom too?" But I made sure, because the thing is, once that broadcaster live went, the measured impact that had on people, like even going back into the chat to see to see my perspective, to see her perspective, to see her mother's perspective, you have, that's a generational thing too. The impact that broadcaster had was like immeasurable. Like, that got the most response on Twitter, just to hear that authentic conversation of how this digital space impacts us, when we just show up to do our thing, regardless of what it is, raising money, playing GTA, playing, I don't know, Pong, whatever, like how, like, just existing in a space, how that can be combative for us. And we have to handle it with grace because we're live and that's what we have to do. But I don't think that, some people might not have the foresight. That's what I'm talking about. Like, where's the value in that? Because, the value wasn't seen there until after the fact. And it's like, oh, I saw what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's kind of like the same thing.
Listen to me from the beginning, we wouldn't have to have this conversation.
Exactly. And that's kind of like the same reason why this whole podcast came into existence too, right? Because, not to speak for everybody, but you can tell me if I'm wrong on this front. Most of what we're talking about here right now, I have no doubt in my mind that every single one of us on our own separate occasions, on our own separate timelines, have probably had this exact conversation with some higher up, with some person that we work with someone who's in our organization, trying to make that movement, and then it never happens. And then all of a sudden it's something like this comes together and people are going, oh, and it's like, but we've been telling you this though.
Yeah.
but we've been telling you this though.
People showed up. What is okay?
I don't understand. And then like kind of going back to that main question I asked that semi-derailed us, but nonetheless needed to be talked about. When you also kind of shoehorn that person as the only one that you use, it also becomes this kind of level of burnout. It becomes this huge burnout because it's like, okay, so again, I'm going to pretend I'm Miss Ash Rocks. I'm trying to raise money. I did something in GTA 4. Bad things happen. Let's say your talk never happened, Confetti, and I tried to bring it up and then nothing gets done about it. But then a month later, you want me to do a flyer. But then 2 months later, you want me to do a video. And then another incident happens and I try to bring it to you and you're just like, trolls are going to troll, and you do nothing about it. But then you want me to be on the front page again. But then you want me to do, and it just gets to that fine point where it's like, speaking in terms of especially value, I know it's not the same value you're talking about. So speaking in terms of value, it starts making me feel like I have no value outside of being that token person that we said at the beginning there to make it clear that, oh, but look, we're diverse. And it's like, some of this feels like borderline torment even, because
you're a commodity.
But then on top of that, there's this really horrible dynamic because when you're the only one in that space, you know for a fact that you're kind of trapped there because if you leave, you can't say with
Who's gonna be
certainty
there?
that they're going to ever replace you.
Yes.
Right.
You can't
But you're
say that with
also- you're
certainty.
also the
So
sole
now you're
representative
trapped. Huh?
for anything in that space. Like
Yeah.
that's the other problem. Like you are it. You have to be prepared to deal with everything that comes with that because anybody who has an opinion about anything that's, I guess, unique to you out of that group is going to be pushed on you.
Yeah.
Linux
Gotta speak
feels
for the
this in
whole
his
entire
soul.
Black community. Yay.
Mm.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
No pressure, dude.
That hit me.
That's real though. Like on our podcast, we've had to say multiple times, like we do not speak for the entire Black congregation. Like this is just the two of us. You know.
I want to touch on that. I want to touch on that for a second. Speaking of the Black congregation, I also, on the topic of advertising and engagement, and Confetti, you touched on this a little bit earlier in your piece. We also need to get out of this mindset that Black people, people of color, women, what have you, are a monolith. They're a monolith. And like, you don't want to bring me on because I might be quote unquote too ghetto. So you're going to keep using the, for lack of better phrasing, white friendly version. But then you want to know why you can't diversify your ranks and everything. And it's like, it's because you're trying to treat us like a monolith. We're either good or bad. There's no in between. There's no actual diversity within our ranks. We have to be PG or garbage tier. And it's so frustrating because even when you're trying to like break the mold and everything, you still have to maintain, as Linux talked about, everyone's talked about it a little bit here, you have to maintain some level of code switching. You have to maintain some level of keeping a certain face on. You still have to go through the song and dance of sitting there with your back straight, your shoulders straight, and everything else, hoping, praying that eventually one day you will be able to say in all of your Blackness, okay, are we going to do different stuff now? Are we going to bring on different Black people? What's the play here? Because this thing we're doing where I'm the only one and I can't even be myself, that's not it, fam.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'll talk forever.
Because especially like the speech thing, because that really grinds my gears because I don't, because I know I have always been very well aware of how I speak since I was a young age because of names that, you know, I've been called, you know, such as Oreo and blah, 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 blah. But the thing is like when I hear that from, you know, companies or when I hear that from people, you know, I'm like, stop associating my diction with whiteness because it doesn't make, the way I speak does not make me better than anybody else. It doesn't. Like I really, that just really bothers me because then it's like putting me on a hierarchy that doesn't really exist. Like that doesn't need to be. And I don't think people realize, or maybe they do, like when they're saying things like that, their internal bias or blatant bias, whichever, you know, whatever day of the week that it is, of what they're saying to me. You know, and that really bothers me because that was done to me recently at my job. It had nothing to do with gaming, but I was just like, stop associating my education, my access to education, which is a privilege for me, and the way that I speak to whiteness. Stop, because that's not a thing. Sorry, that was a side tangent. Whoo.
You know, though, I'm gonna tag along on that.
So you tag along, and then I want to let Ghana speak a little bit too. So you go first, and I'll get Ghana.
Is the presentation part of it, right? Like I've seen people that go on and stream in like their pajamas, right? But like ain't no way you're gonna catch me getting on streaming like that because like I already know I'm already having to deal with these other issues. I'm not giving people one more thing they can take a shot at. Like, you know what I mean? And the same way if I go talk to somebody about a charity or whatever, like, you know, you generally have to wear a nicer shirt or, you know, you put on your good kicks for the day or whatever. Like you can't just go in on like your average workday attire sometimes and go talk to some of these people. Like you don't get that same benefit that these other people are going to get. And you might get denied something or looked at differently or whatever because you didn't present a certain way.
Yeah. And then Ghana, I think you were going to say something. I don't know why I keep pointing to your camera like you know where I'm pointing.
No, I know. I've been doing the same thing where I'm like looking at the yeah, you. But so two things. First of all, teacher side, for anyone who's watching this stream because like you want to learn how to interact a little bit better, code switching is something that like we've all been using. But in case you don't know, code switching is when you change the way you act, the way you speak, the way you present yourself for a different audience. The way that I present it to my students is like, do you speak the same way to your grandmother as you do to your best friend? And all of them would be no.
Yeah, no.
And so that's something that we have to do is we have to code switch. And especially if you have a quote unquote black diction, which, you know, non-existent, whatever. But if you speak that way, then you're too ghetto. And so it's one of those, it's a gatekeeping thing of making sure that you must be this white to stream, you must be this white to join the organization, which is utter garbage, but that's what we have to deal with, where we have to speak a certain way, we have to dress a certain way, like Powrdragn said, we have to present ourselves as white enough.
Sorry, I'm like also checking some of the chat stuff too. It looks like people are having issue getting to the donation link. This is again a gentle reminder that we are raising money for Trans Lifeline while we talk about being black and or some variety of person of color in a streaming space and a charity space. But it's just some of that whole conversation piece of like being the go-to person despite all the, and we call them microaggressions that are going on in the background, is just so tiring too. Especially when you don't have a way to talk about those microaggressions. I actually appreciate, Ghana, that you took the time to explain what code switching is, because, you know, even in like, I hate to do this and put myself on the spot, but even like right now, I'm kind of engaging some variety of code switching. This isn't how I act on my stream by a long shot. But the thing is, because of the seriousness of the conversation, because of the importance of it, because of my passion behind it, it's unfortunate, but it's true that I am actively engaging it because I want this to be taken seriously. And I want this to be something that doesn't all of a sudden fall on deaf ears where somebody's going to come in from the front page and say, oh, okay, it's just black people complaining, and then they wander off and everything. I have put on that whole affront to even get past the first 5 or 6 barricades of trust before people listen to me. Because if I were to have this conversation just on my channel tomorrow when I usually go live and I can be myself, it almost, without hesitation, it just invites trolls, it invites problem people, it invites someone who wants to come in and be like, you know, this is why no one listens to you. And it's like, but that's part of the issue, is that I shouldn't have to be a completely different flavor of person just to have my voice not even heard, but considered.
Yeah.
I can't even get past that first wave. And it's just, it's so wild to me. And I was going to talk about that a little bit too, about like the different treatment. Like I said, I had an organization that something bad happened in a public space, and they literally looked at me and said, well, but they're a mentor, so what can you do? And I'm just like, I don't know. Tell them maybe don't. I don't... I feel like that's not a big ask in any way, shape, or form. But we've talked too about like so many other things. Well, I think we kind of talked extensively about how we're treated in those spaces from a higher level. And Confetti, I think it's super important too that you brought up how you do a lot of this work with your sorority and stuff. So you do get a little bit of wiggle room from that because you have a higher chance of being around, and you can tell me if I'm assuming, you have a higher chance of being around like similar demographics, similar dynamics, and being able to just get stuff kind of going versus when you're going out somewhere brand new. Like if we were all to leave this podcast right now and be like, you know what, I'm going to go and I want to work with Doctors Without Borders, who, by the way, I love them to pieces. They do excellent work. I want to go work with Doctors Without Borders, but we're going in with a blank slate. I don't even want to think about how absolutely exhausting any and all of those conversations and footwork would be just to even get the foot in the door.
The hoops you have to jump through.
I think as an alumni, because I'm in an alumni chapter, yes, that's true. I would say as when I was an undergrad, as a collegiate, not necessarily working with new people, because people want to get involved with colleges and college stuff. They just want, because it's free advertising, but a lot of companies and stuff, they want to get involved with collegiate stuff. I think the barriers that we ran into was when we wanted to partner with another Greek organization that was not a part of the Divine Nine, which is 9 organizations that are Black Greek organizations that were founded back in the early 1900s, for people who don't know. So like the predominantly white organizations, that's really where we clashed, because there was a lack of understanding between how the two national organizations ran. So it was like we really had to prove ourselves that we weren't the stomp the yard, hazing, crazy, ghetto Black chicks who wear red. We pretty much had to prove that we were not an organized gang. And that was actually very disheartening, especially like when we were just trying to do a lot of stuff, because there were things that were happening on campus that, you know, we would try to work with other people as a reaction to. And, you know, we typically had to we did work with the same people, because people didn't want to do their research. They didn't want to like talk to us. They didn't want to show up to our events, even though we showed up to theirs. I would say as a collegiate, it was a little bit difficult, but for different reasons. Not necessarily with external things, but internally trying to work together for a common cause, which is ultimately helping the community.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think. This actually has me thinking a little bit too about another one I've worked with, which is Habitat for Humanity, and how now that I'm playing it back and looking back at some of like the role assignments and everything, I realize I worked with them maybe, oh God, the upwards of 10 or 15 years ago, because I just wanted to help, like, you know, in young high school Vanessa brain, I just wanted to help build houses, because, you know, houses are a good thing, and we won't get into the whole conversation around that. But even looking back at it now, I'm realizing too that some of that role assignment and some of that code switching and that other stuff really played a heavy role in it, because I literally, sorry, my hair was on my arm. I literally am now distinctly recalling how I never ever was allowed to be involved in like the direct engagement with people. I was never allowed to be involved with direct action, getting money or pushing efforts and all that stuff. I literally, as the only Black person on that team, and at the time this was in St. Louis, Missouri, the only Black person on that team for that entire like grouping, I was relegated to just building. And that's it. And now I'm looking back at it and I'm just like, I didn't realize I was a pack mule. I was never, I wasn't fit to talk to people, to engage people and all these other things. I was just a pack mule. And, you know, stuff like that is harmful, because it's already bad enough I'm the only Black person there. But then any other Black person observing and looking in, if they catch wind of that, that's probably going to turn them off, because they're like, oh, so you just want us to build stuff. And that's it. And it's, again, it's the double-edged sword, because on the one hand, you are helping, you are engaging. Habitat with Humanity specifically, that's their whole mission and goal, is to get people into affordable low-income homes. That's their whole purpose. Now, with that being said, now that we're in adult land and everything else, I have done freelance work for them, and even looking at their advertising and their numbers and everything else, there needs to be even a conversation about transforming how they're marketing that information, because you're doing low-income housing and people who need help with housing, but even that is still overwhelmingly white. And I'm looking at like all the stock photos and everything else, and looking at all the images and looking at the data and looking at everything, and I'm just like, I don't understand how you're saying low income and you have 0 Black people. 0? You don't even have 1. You have 0. That it blows my mind, like how bad some of the visibility is from every front. And then again, it's just this bizarre looping over and over and over again. Nothing shows us, nothing includes us, nothing engages us, nothing involves us. But then all of a sudden we get to this high level of being like, but how do I get more Black people?
Right.
But again, I think this comes back to what I was mentioning earlier, where you have none of that diversity at the decision-making level. You know, I remember when I went to the Gamma Trade Show for the first time, and I'm walking around, and I'm for real one of, I think at the time, 3 Black people that were in this entire convention of game industry business owners. and I'm the only business owner, and even when we had discussions, several of them, you would hear them ask each other, like, oh, what's the name of your business? Or, what's the name of your store? And then they talk to me, it's like, oh, well, where do you work? It wasn't, because it just wasn't a thing. And they didn't even realize they were saying it. And I had to point it out to them and be like, yo, dude, like, like, this is my place. This is what I'm doing. And even after, when you brought it to attention, you're like, oh, whoa, hey, I didn't mean it like that. It was just, but they get in the
It becomes your fault.
Yeah,
Right.
they don't even realize, though, that they're doing anything. It's just the way everything operates, and it's just been that way for so long. They don't even think twice about it. So it takes somebody being in that space to say, like, no, here's what we're doing wrong. When they say, and then we start having those conversations about, hey, how do we get more people involved? How do we get more diversity in the ownership and creating these games or whatever? And I said, well, look around. You don't even have any diversity on just who's on the cover of the games. Like, why does anybody want to pick them up and play them if they don't look like you? Like,
Who can imagine a woman in World War II?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so you're having more of that now, and I think that's why you're starting to see more people of color and more women getting involved. Like, we have more women that are writing books on gaming, doing more game reviews, and it's becoming more of the norm. But we're still a long way from what I would call an equality level. But it's becoming enough that now people are really looking and saying, okay, this is obviously a thing. How do we get in touch with that community? And that's at least better than where we were, 15 years ago.
Exactly. And like I said, too, at the very beginning of all this is actually how the whole thing with the podcast got started was, as I said before, someone who was not a person of color was willing to break that comfort zone, ask the question, and then once they asked the question, they moved out of the way. And that's something that I wanted to stress to people, like, 90 times over. If there's anything that people take from this that they remember and they, like, burn into their brain, it's make the move, take the step, and then move out the way. Because this whole dynamic that we have where, as you were kind of alluding to, Powrdragn, this whole thing that we have where, we're trying to make these decisions and your entire panel of people trying to make those decisions are white, it's not effective because you guys have no idea what we deal with or what's going on or why it's being parsed that way. Kind of exactly what you were saying with they ask certain clients questions A, B, and C, and then they get to you and all of a sudden now it's question Q, specifically question Q. And it's like, you gotta break that mindset that, like, we are something entirely different and or animalistic or bizarre or out of place and something like that. And oh god, I just kind of lost half of my thought there.
What I want to add to that too is that it goes beyond even just what people look like. Like, when you start talking about advertising your event and whatnot, like, are you even aware of all the important holidays that happen for each culture, or what's going on around the world, or what special events are going on in different communities, or any of that stuff? Like, all of that will affect your promotion. All of that will affect who's going to pay attention to it or where you need to spend your advertising dollars. But if you aren't in touch with people in those different communities, you're not even going to know those are things.
And, like, the girl who started all this off too, like, I cannot stress to her enough, and she's quietly in the crowd. Thank you so much for stepping out of your comfort zone and getting this done. I cannot stress enough how much of a big first step that is too. It's monumental, because otherwise you're dealing with what Confetti was talking about, where we're trying to spearhead it and we're trying to do it, and it just becomes this thing where we butt heads because now you feel like we're trying to talk over you, tell you how to do stuff, blah blah blah. That's not the thing. But if you're really about the cause and making sure that we feel welcome, making sure that we feel included and all that stuff, you gotta bring us in and you gotta move. You gotta do it. This whole thing where you want to have an attitude because we showed up and you're like, oh, well, you want to try and make things ghetto? Honey, I didn't say nothing, but let's have a small potluck. That has nothing to do with being ghetto. You're just trying to make stuff
Shoot,
up
we all
now.
likes to eat. It ain't got nothing to do with being ghetto.
Everybody wants food.
Even
What do you
how to be
mean?
ghetto, like,
But they're gonna put raisins in it, guys.
Like, and here's the thing. Like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on our show that
I'm listening,
Part of the thing
Powrdragn.
is, some of
I'm
us
sorry.
ain't even ghetto. Like we have family that doesn't even know about gaming or whatever. We're the black sheep in some cases in some of our own circles. So you don't even know who you're speaking to or the assumptions you're making by assuming these people won't be your people too.
And that, oh,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I was alluding to a little bit with the whole monolith thing, because there's this ongoing perception of, we start out at, especially if we're people of color. I don't want to keep saying black. It's mostly all people of color go through this. You start out as a person of color at some arbitrary thing like ghetto, and you have to kind of slowly but surely work your way down from that. And it's so exhausting because it's like, but that's not even, like, for my family, it's exactly what you said. I am the designated unicorn. I'm the unicorn. I play games. I am, yeah, I play games. I do the charity streaming thing. I stream on Twitch. My dad to this day still doesn't understand what the hell I do on Fridays and Saturdays. He's just like,
I
so
still have to
explain
what this is.
Why do you have a
Like,
green
I come into
sheet
my
up?
office, like,
It's
why
not.
do
It's
you
not.
have this green sheet. What are you doing?
It's not a sheet. First of all, it's technically a sheet, but
Cheese and Joanne's.
you know, it's technically a sheet. But,
But
you
no
know,
lie,
my
I was
dad's
running a big event that had like 400 people, and my mom shows up for the first time, and she literally looks around the room and just goes, "So all these people play games for you, huh?" And I was like, "Yep." "And this is how you pay your bills, huh?" "Yep."
sorry.
"All right
sorry.
then." And that was the whole conversation.
Hang on. I just have to laugh because I just looked over in chat. It's Swords Fall Such a Mess. He's one of the mods helping out tonight. And he says, it's an imaginary cloak.
Yes. It's imagination. Cloak, yes.
It's an imagination cloak. Pretend. But yeah,
For real.
and like people don't understand it. By the way, thank you for a $50 donation. I've been saying it in chat. I see that some people are putting in donations. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. Trans Lifeline appreciates it. The Cookout appreciates it. We all appreciate it immensely, but I at least wanted to say that at one time. I saw there's a few that have been trickling in, so thank you. But yeah, like people don't even understand it. We're already having to combat our own stuff. I'm the unicorn. My dad still doesn't understand what I do. I just had to get on the phone with him yesterday to get Christmas plans out, and he's like, so you still do that Twitch thing? And I'm like, yes, I still do the Twitch thing. So what exactly is it again? I play video games for people. They come in and mock me and say it's my birthday and that I should make curry, and then they buy stuff for like charities for me. That's it. That's all I'm doing. So why are you doing this again? Oh my God, I'll see you when I come home. I can't with this. I literally can't. And especially like in our respective communities too, we're unicorns on a higher level, because I can't start to tell you about like some of the nonsense and stress I already deal with having to be, for lack of better phrasing, not black enough. So then to turn around and want to be in the charity space and be told that that exact same persona that exists is too black, it's like,
Bruh.
You're caught between the rock and the hard place, and both of them don't like you.
yeah,
Yep.
what is the correct response here now then? Because if I wear the white curls and like the nice shirt and everything, we might be having issues. Oh, never mind, she's fixing something. If I wear the white curls, I'm too ghetto, despite the mountain of compliments I've got for my hair. But then you
You're so
know,
pretty.
you say what?
You so pretty.
Oh, shut up! Don't do. But yeah, like, you know, companies, organizations and stuff, they look at things like how I'm dressed right now. Like, literally, I'm wearing a freaking turtleneck because I am afraid that organizations would have looked at me and what I wore to work today and been like, are you sure this is the face of this conversation you want? That's a real fear I had coming on today. Because I had, like, this really, I think it's cute at least, I had on this, like, really cute V-neck kind of off-the-shoulder top that, like, attenuated my shoulders and everything, and I was wearing my hair down, and I looked at it in the camera for like 15 minutes and I was like, I can't wear that. I can't wear that because people are going to say that I'm a Twitch thought, or that I am, you know, trying to fish
Bougie.
for attention. You say what?
Bougie.
Yeah, bougie or ghetto, or I'm seeking attention, or things of that nature, and it's gonna just completely ruin everything. So I'm sitting here with a pile of sweat running down my back, wearing this godforsaken turtleneck because I wanted to look quote-unquote professional in the hopes that, oh dear God, I don't want to be read as some level of negative. And I'm super uncomfortable, but that's literally the level that we have to operate at to have these talks, to get these things going and stuff. And I'm just sitting here like looking at the clock going, I cannot wait to get out of this turtleneck. I cannot wait to take my hair down. I cannot wait to take off lipstick. Please help me. Oh my God. But I gotta do it. I'm doing it for the donations. I'm doing it for the trans kids. You sit there, girl, and you sweat. You do what you need to do.
I was having to explain to somebody the other day that every black dude I knew growing up, you knew how to do at least one of three things, and that was starch and iron pants, tie a tie, and or cut hair. That's just something like all the dudes had to know, like for real.
Yeah. And I know like halfway in, like with, you know, going on front page, because Broadcaster is on the front page. I know I had to change what I was wearing halfway through them because I think there's a few more left. I don't remember, but I had to start wearing the 1000 Dreams Fund shirts because other things that I was wearing was not good for front page. And that's where I'll leave that.
Well, yeah, and that's
brand.
just it.
But I'm like, I wore this to work. Okay.
The struggle, the
like,
actual
right.
struggle.
I'll be more on brand if that's what it really is.
And then I think someone else was trying to say something. I heard voices. I might be going delirious. Am I going delirious? I might not be going delirious.
Listen to the voices.
Or I'll say there's multiple voices and I'm not sure I'm keeping up with them as well as I thought I was. But, oh, okay. So something that just came up in chat. So can we talk about how terrible the phrase being on brand is? And we kind of were just going back and forth about it because yeah, when I decided to opt out of that shirt, because again, I'm doing charity chat, I've put a ton of blood, sweat, and tears behind this since when I checked the date to get you on Confetti. I didn't realize I've been working on this since the beginning of October. It has been a long 2 months, but that's how long I've been working on this. And I've been wanting to help with charity and like, when I was told we're going to be raising money for Trans Lifeline, I'm like, sweet, I haven't worked with them yet. Awesome. And all this other stuff. And to just have that defeating moment of sitting in my chair 30 minutes before going live and being like, I have to change clothes. It's so wild to me that we are so enthralled with that appearance factor. With like making sure, especially for, again, minorities specifically, because I can't tell you how many non-POC, non-women streamers have got out on even things like the front page looking an entire hot disaster, but then are still like, oh, and by the way, this is like one of our best contributors. And I'm like, this person looks like they rolled out their bed and haven't even brushed their teeth yet. And I don't understand why, if that's who you're going to let be the face of your organization, why is it that when it's my turn to get involved, I get turned away because I don't have the right aesthetic? Dude looks like he's about to go get in the shower.
If that.
And we all pray he does. Like, please.
He might not be.
Oof.
Okay, but the real question, have you showered? That's the burning question. Have you showered? Anyway, no, that's a whole different side tangent. But yeah, like, dude looks like he's about to go take a shower. Or dude looks like he hasn't slept in 12 days. Or, you know, dude is out here, like, cursing up a storm and doing all sorts of stuff. And I don't mean that in a hypocritical sense because, I'll be honest, once we're off front page, I do curse. And things of that nature. But, like, more than you would expect somebody to do and everything else. And yet, when I want to walk onto the scene, you literally will stonewall me because I don't have the right look. And it's like, I'm sorry that I don't look like I only own one shirt. I don't know what else to tell you, my guy. But it's it like also is just very
Eurocentric standard.
Yeah, I would say it's very, very obvious double standarding though. And again, this is in that same conversation bubble with getting people who are like us involved, like Powrdragn was saying. Because you may not even notice you're doing that. That doesn't mean you're not doing it.
Right.
You know, that's the big thing. Saying you don't realize you're doing it doesn't mean you're magically not doing it. Yeah, and this is the stuff that we deal with. Oh, go ahead. Oh yeah, I was like, this is the same thing that I was gonna say with like, I went with the turtleneck because it looks professional, but I was even going to try and wear my Twitch sweater. And I opted against that because that has my shoulders bare. And I love my Twitch sweater. It's super soft and comfy. And I just washed it and it smells good. And I didn't wear
Bare
it.
shoulders.
You say what?
Bare shoulders.
Like, people are acting like I'm showing my ankles on the screen and we're in the 20s somewhere.
You know what?
Clutches pearls.
Yeah. I'll say this though too. Like, I'm very fortunate now. I grew up in Texas, so I grew up in the South, and I got the whole gamut of issues that could happen down there. I now live up in the Pacific Northwest in the Seattle area. And I've had, even in the professional setting, when I worked for Wizards of the Coast, I had a manager job there. I was in marketing. There were people that would come to work and for real would be like pajama bottoms and a Megadeth shirt. And I just looked at them and I'm like, man, there is no way in hell I would even think about coming to work like that.
Yeah.
Like, and I know that like with my bosses and whatever, it probably wouldn't affect any type of promotions. It probably wouldn't affect any job, but like, it's just ingrained in me that I couldn't even attempt that. Like, even if I know it's okay, it's not even possible for me to do it.
You already feel like you have to be a higher standard.
Yeah, like it was crazy for me to even see that. Like dudes walking around in flip-flops around the corporate office, just like, it was nuts.
Oh yeah.
Like, even when I got hired at GameStop when I worked in college, they were surprised that I showed up to the interview like dressed for an interview, even though it was like an entry-level position at GameStop. Because typically, when I became the manager, I saw what they were talking about, and people do tend to show up in like Nintendo shirts or a Naruto hoodie, and I'm like, please get out of my face.
Ooh, yo! Most recently, when I worked for Card Kingdom, over there, like, and no lie, the only people I had that showed up that weren't at least dressed what I would call like business casual or better were for real just like 20-something white dudes. Like one dude showed up, he had a beat up t-shirt, jeans with holes in them, had all his jewelry all in his face, hair wasn't combed. And before the interview even started, I'm like, dude, like, you got to put in some effort. At least show me that you care. Like, damn.
We had the exact same conversation when I used to be a manager at American Eagle. And I remember I went in, I didn't go in dressed to the nines because it was a retail store, but I still went in with like a nice shirt and it was like buttoned up and everything. And like, the jeans that didn't have holes in them and maybe didn't wear tennis shoes and stuff. And then once I became a manager is when I started seeing it too. People who were walking in, I will never ever forget nor forgive the kid who walked in his sleepy pants and some slide-ons with an application that was very evidently filled out by not him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked and I remember, you say what, Ghana?
My mom made me do this.
Yeah. And I remember just looking at it and he walked out and my assistant manager was just like, so how was that one? And I was like, is that a real question? He has on sleepy pants. He has on sleepy pants. And like, they're just like, oh, it's not a big deal.
86 right then and there.
Stole it away in front of him.
But anywho, going a little bit back on track because we got sidetracked with some of the other stuff. Although it is relatable to dealing with like navigating charity spaces. Like those are the types of trials and tribulations that we deal with, not just on a day-to-day, but we deal with that even when we want to do things like charity streaming, because we have to put up that whole separate facade. Like for me to get, I'm going to put myself on the line again. For me to be as involved into Write Love on Our Arms as I am 99% certain that the only reason I have the footing that I do in there is because I know one of the people who are directly involved in getting everything set up. As a matter of fact, when I went to go meet them, I recommended to them that they consider taking that job. And they did. And then I got like front row seats for everything. But if I didn't have that connection, I don't think I would have gotten nearly as much footing as I did, if only because I had somebody on the inside, and then with St. Jude, I was shooting in the dark. I just was like, I'm going to do it for a month and we'll see what happens. And I got very lucky because I have a lot of like really loving people in my community and everything, but I had no mentorship, no guidance, nothing whatsoever. I was like running by myself. in the Discord and hoping for the best. And the staff of St. Jude were actually really, really helpful. Like if I had a question, St. Jude staff are A+, by the way. If you guys are here, bless up, and you have great incentives. I cannot stress that. Oh my God, you guys have excellent incentives. Super salty I'm not going for the scarf right now, but I had like 800 things go on, like this chat. But you know, the staff were helpful, and they had things in place that you could tell they had to have done some type of like group assessment. But as far as like some of the community that's around there, to say that I felt like I was by myself often is an understatement. And then especially if I did get attention from someone like staff, then you could see it in how some of the people started to behave with you. It was less about working towards the same goal and more about being competitive about the attention.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I'm not here to fight with you. I'm not here to prove that I'm like a better streamer or I can raise money better or things like that. I just want to help some kids who have freaking cancer.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. And I just want to be welcome in this space the same way you're welcome in this space. I don't understand why that's a big ask for some people, but it is. And that's why we're having the entire charity talk, because this is the stuff that we deal with. And I actually need to do, okay, I just wanted to make sure of things. So kind of want to loop all of this together. We've talked extensively about like what we deal with, things we've seen, things we've heard, some of like the other stipulations that come with it that we don't really talk about a lot. So now the next question becomes for many people, what do we do moving forward? How do we start addressing the myriad of problems that we've laid out here? We've kind of started talking about it a little bit already, for what it's worth. But I just wanted to actually kind of put that as a highlightable area, because now what do we do moving forward? How do we get these companies, these organizations, these groups to start saying, hey, we want this to be better. What should we do?
I would say anybody who has an opportunity to work with a charity, or you have a charity that is interested in reaching out in the gaming community, I would probably even copy this link and share this video with them and just say, hey, look, this may be some stuff you ain't thought about before. Consider this, and that automatically is going to get you more reach, more people. At least just put it in front of people and get that conversation started.
I think go ahead, Linux.
Is I know this is something that I've been definitely putting in every extra life space that I've been in, knowing that for a lot of these people, it was going to be super uncomfortable to have these things talked about, have these things brought to light. Because, I mean, for there to only be 5 of us in that organization like that, and nobody has like a real good seat at the table. I think I'm the closest, like at the kids' table, like, you know, please listen to me. I see you look at me every so often, but please listen, I got things to say. I'm hoping that this stream kind of further kickstarts that conversation. Like, I've talked to people, but then I just get dropped. I haven't heard back from people in God knows how long. I have side conversations with people, but there's nothing concrete. There's nothing official happening. I hear, oh, we're working on it, but that's the last I hear about it. So I'm hoping by me sharing it, by me putting this in front of so many people that I work with that don't look like me, say, hey, this is what I deal with on an everyday basis. I may not say it because I'm trying not to rock the boat as much, even though I don't care anymore. I'll capsize it if I got to now, because somebody's going to listen to me. I'm hoping that this stream here finally just gets people to see what it is that I'm dealing with, what I'm pretty sure others like me that are in the organization, what they're dealing with. Yeah, just hope that the conversations continue from there. I hope that somebody reaches out and talks out, or like, again, I'm gonna have to start screaming. I'm gonna scream a lot louder. Now I got a link to say, hey, this is the problem. We need to talk, and I'm not gonna let this go. 2020 is here. I'm not letting this go.
I'll back you up, and I don't even need a microphone.
Hey.
So it's kind of funny too. Wait, was somebody about to say something?
Oh,
no,
Oh, good. Okay. I was just gonna say, just like advice or like things that I do, or I try to preface conversations, especially when you're going into talking about inclusion and when you're talking about diversity, because they are different words. One's a noun, one's a verb. So there's action behind, inclusion. To listen with the intent to understand and not listen to respond or not listen to get a result. I think that takes a high level of empathy. And I think just to listen with intentionality in general, those active listening skills is maybe something that just needs to be developed by a lot of people. I know I had an experience, it wasn't related to charity, but it was related to a video game that labeled hair wrong in the game, and it was Dead by Daylight. And they called cornrows something that they were not and put it on a white character. And we had to have a conversation about that. We had it through email, and then we ultimately had it in person. But I felt that the person that was on the other end of me, listened with the intention to understand, well, I want to know more about this because we didn't do our research. So I want to know more, and I want to know your perspective. That level of empathy and that level of wanting to learn, even though I'm not going to be a teacher every single day to white people, I think that's immeasurable. So I think just for anybody looking to get involved with communities is to listen to with the intent of understanding and not looking for a result because you want more Black people to show up. Because I think when you have a more well-rounded approach, the intention and your true morality, it shows through, and that's valuable to people versus just I want a token and I want more Black people or people of color to show up.
And I mean, exactly what you did to start this off. Start out asking, like, are there any people of color, women of color, LGBTQIA? Like, is there anyone like that who wants to go on the stream? That doesn't mean that it has to be exclusively one of those three. But if you start out with that, it's not going to be, well, can we fit in this one Black person? Can we put in one person who might be gay? Like, make it so that you have your list full of POC, and then put in a token white person. Put in like a token straight dude. Whatever floats your boat. Gosh, I want to say it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg who said, like, the only way that she feels that the oh no, mind blank, big judgy people.
The Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, thank you. I'm sorry. The only way that she really feels the Supreme Court is going to be even is when she sees all women on the bench, because for how many years was it all men? And so, like, we don't need to have all of the space, but when it gets normal for us to be in the space, then maybe we can even out. But, like, give people of color a spotlight. Give people who are LGBTQIA the spotlight. Give women the spotlight. And then, maybe kick it back to the white dudes.
And it's funny you say that too, because we're also in that weird dynamic where, like, we want things to become normalized, and we want you to give us the spotlight without making it into a big debacle. Because that's something I think is also really exhausting, is when it's like, okay, cool beans, you have a Black person on the flyer, but now every time we see it, you're going above, beyond, and out of your way to make sure that every single person knows that you have put a Black person on that flyer. By the way, did you see that flyer we put out? It has a Black person on it. And then also on top of that, there's a Black person, and it's just like, yo, this is so extra. Like, we're asking you to do the work and also treat it and handle it like this is something that should be normal occurring.
Right.
Should be normal occurring. So don't go out there and put us on your flyers, put us at your tables, put us in the forefront, put us in your actual, like, employed positions. That is so critical. Put us in your employed positions and then want to make sure that you dangle that over our head at all times that, by the way, we hired you because you're black. By the way, we brought you on because you're gay. By the way, we want you on here because you're disabled. And it's like, so at that point, you just feel like you're tokenizing us. It feels like our only value is literally to tick off a line on diversity. And that's it. It has to be, I know that it's genuine, but not. It's a weird way to describe it, but it has to be more genuine than not. It has to feel like you actually want to do it and you aren't just doing it to do that tick off. Again, this is your reminder. Black people exist beyond February.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's why I say that inclusion part, the action part behind it, you know, diversity. I mean, I say this in higher ed. I know it's not the exact definition, but I say diversity is the number, inclusion is the work.
You know, I want to say, like, I guess if I can have a second, just like to speak to the heads of the charities, is really you need to do two things. The first is challenge whatever you believe as far as what you think a person, a group, or whatever is. Find somebody in that space, go out, look at them, research them, watch their streams, listen to their podcasts, look at whatever articles they've written, look at their body of work, and use that to determine, is this somebody I want representing my project, my brand, whatever it is. And then once you make that decision, go in and interact with that person. Don't just bring them on board to say, hey, we want you to be part of this. Like, become part of their network. Go out and help them reach those other people. Give them the resources. If they need, I don't know, assets to put on their webpage or whatever to help reach out, like, make sure they have all that and prove to their community that you're also all in for them. You're not just using that person to get the thing you want. Make them part of the project in whole.
That was something that came up with, again, if you've been on my Twitter, you'll know that I am like a little angry ball that, like, someone, if I was a can of soda, someone shakes me up and throws me into the universe, like, every single day. I get on Twitter, I'm like, ah, type of thing. But we had this exact same conversation with Wargroove recently, and it was that exact problem because they had done step one, which was actually portray black people in their game, and it's like, good, great, wonderful, you're doing wonderful, sweetie, we love this. And then it was time to cast for voice acting, and every single black character had a white voice actor, and it's like, you were doing so well, why?
They just tripped at the finish line.
Like, why would you do this to me? And so I have been fortunate enough to put myself on the line, and I've kind of been talking to some people behind the scenes that were involved with it, and they put out a public thing, and this kind of goes back to what I said at the beginning about putting yourself out there. They put out an apology, flat out being like, you know what? We did blind casting, and we see now where we dropped the ball on that. And people came in and educated them and was like, you know, blind casting would be fine if the playing field was even. You need to even that playing field first. And a lot of people don't like hearing that next part of what that means is, in this case, like what Ruth was talking about, you needed to filter that down to POC first and foremost, and then do your blind casting. Because right now what you're doing, you did blind casting and you reached into a pool that is like 93% white. So I'm not even remotely shocked that you came out with white people. 93% of them were white. The likelihood that you were going to pick the black person, provided they could even show up, mind you, was slim to none. Oh my goodness. I was say that flicker is getting real bad. That flicker is getting real bad. I would say if they
even got to them with that many people.
That's what I mean.
That's the other problem.
There's such a disparity of, like, because probably that person's resume was because they keep getting cast into these roles. And then POC people, their resume isn't that great. Not because they're not trying, not because they aren't, like, getting their patoots out there, but just because blind casting and deciding that this white person deserves the Scarlett Johansson needs to play this Asian person.
do not
sorry.
start
I'm sorry.
anyone
I'm a
on
problem
ScarJo
child.
because we will go careening into the abyss and it'll be midnight somewhere and we'll still be like, so let's talk about ScarJo. And it's like, we've been talking about her for 3 hours. How can you still be dragging her? But ScarJo though.
And Ghana's just over there rabble rousing for the hell of it, for real.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, like it's the exact same conversation piece, but in a charity space. You have to inject us at every stage of the pipeline. You got to do it. You have to do it. And if you see that there are problems getting that done, you need to take active steps to actually push it towards getting done. Because until it's actually equal, we can't just follow the guidelines as they currently exist. Literally can't do it. If we could follow the guidelines as they existed, this entire podcast wouldn't exist.
Yep.
The entire podcast wouldn't exist. And the reason a podcast exists is because I, as a woman of color, had to put out something that deliberately said things like POC only. And even when I did that, I still got non-POC showing up. Hey, can I be on this? My guy, no. What do you mean? No, I specifically said I want people of color on this. And you had the pocket of people who got it. Again, as Confetti said, they're learning, they're listening to understand, to comprehend, to get it. And I want to add something to that specifically. They're open to learning and taking that discomfort and growing with it and not getting defensive about it. Because that's what happens a lot of times is we reach out, we say things and we're like, hey, I know you didn't mean this way, but like, this is wildly problematic. And it's like something immediately clicks and they're like, well, that's not what I meant. That's not what was happening. And now it just sucks that you took it that way and blah, blah. And it's like, bro, I'm not even upset. I'm just letting you know that this is how that went down and how it impacts me. Well, that's not what I meant. Bro, no one's mad. And then they just kind of escalate it further. And it's like, okay, well, now I am mad. Like, I don't know what else. You wanted me to be mad. Congratulations. Here we are.
See,
now I'm mad.
Background, I challenge that so hard. I'm like, you seem upset. What's going on?
Mm-hmm. I've done the same stuff though, for real.
But the thing is like, I just stay silent because I want an answer. It was an open, like, what's going on? You seem upset about this. Let's talk about it.
Right, and it's like, and go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, and then we just talk until we get to the root of the problem. Because I'm like, I'm not letting you. 15 minutes. Well, we got 14 to hash this out. What's going on? Let's talk about it.
And like, that also comes with the conversation of challenging. Powrdragn touched on this. Challenging your worldviews on some of this stuff because, like, this whole trope. We just had something happen on Twitter recently where a bunch of nonsense broke out and somebody came through writing a thread about how, well, I can't say anything to anyone because you're all so aggressive. And it's like, I'm probably one of the most approachable people you will ever meet in your life. You can come into my inbox and literally talk to me about anything under the sun. You could talk to me about life, the universe, and everything. You could talk to me about hair, clothes, what's got you stressed out today. Anything that you want to talk about. And if I don't have the knowledge for it, I will be honest and transparent about it. And I may even have somebody to send you to that can help you with what you need. But the fact that you immediately assume that because I am passionate or I have conviction behind my words, that must default me to angry. Y'all got to stop this. Because has someone else said the exact same thing, you've been fine with it. So you're upholding like tropes and stuff. And again, may not be intentional. May not be what you meant to have happen, but we're trying to, thank you for $10 donation, we're trying our best to help get you through this process too, because we tired of dealing with it just as much as you are. Matter of fact, we more tired, because it actually impacts us. Y'all are out here upset because your feelings got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm upset because I can't do stuff that I'm interested in. Like, I want to help you with your charity. I want to raise money for you. I want to be part of your ranks. I want to work directly with you. And you are gatekeeping me out of it. But that somehow falters in comparison to the fact that, well, but Vanessa, you yelled at me.
Your poor, sad feeling.
How dare you?
Like, I can't. I literally cannot with this. So
It just sounds like a student when they're like, you yelled at me. I did not. And also you hit a student. If I did yell, it needs to stop.
I also feel like it's important to mention too that when we say gatekeeping, it's not necessarily like the active gatekeeping that we would normally see in a lot of spaces, but just the inadvertent of like when you don't have people that look like us or look like other marginalized groups of people, that's kind of gatekeeping too. It's like instead of having somebody at the gate that says no, you can't, you just put up a sign that says maybe you're not welcome here. So, I mean, it can be an unconscious thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're constantly if you're constantly in your marketing materials putting up people that all look the same, then yeah, like I mean, that's like why would I even want to walk through that gate? They clearly don't want me here.
Well, and another thing, this kind of came up in the survey, and it's kind of a little bit of a backtrack too. One of the questions I asked as well on that survey was about rapport. Because the easiest and simplest way to explain a lot of this is that people talk.
Mm-hmm.
People talk. And so when your rapport starts preceding your efforts, that makes it that much harder for you to actually get more of us on board. Because like I said, with the organization, I'm refraining from naming them, with the organization, it was just like, oh, but he's a mentor. Now when people of color approach me about that, and they're like, oh, how do you feel about this organization? It goes from, it was a great experience to, I mean,
We raise money.
Type of thing. And, the same thing applies for if we even see if you're putting forth that effort in any way, shape, or form. And that's not even just from an advertising front or from a visibility front. Are you even doing things that, like, specifically target those marginalized populations that you want to also hop on board? Because we've seen it plenty of times where we'll see somebody is raising money for, like, we're raising money right now for Trans Lifeline, and it's a very general level one, but we've seen things like organizations that come through that want to raise money and want to go to specific populations. And we see all the time that, we've got whole communities and stuff. We talked about this a little bit when I talked about Habitat. You want to build houses for low-income people, but you've never given a house to a low-income Black family? That's a thing? That's a real thing that you did? Because we got all types of low-income people there. So how in the world do you expect me to believe that you, bluntly speaking, care about Black people, not just in your ranks, but also outwardly, when your entire catalog shows that you ain't helped not a single one of us? And you can never convince me that you just didn't know where the low-income Black people are. Are you kidding me? I live in Indiana. All you gotta do is go a couple hours north, and you in a whole city of low-income Black people. They right there. So that to me reads much more as a lack of effort, a lack of trying.
And I think some of that is sort of what I was hitting on earlier, is that just getting these minority groups or whatever involved is not enough. Like, they actually have to actively work with them and support them. Just like you're saying, you had those issues and kind of just got turned away, right? Like, they have to be willing to step in and say, okay, well, let me at least investigate this situation. Or reach out to your communities. In the case of Habitat for Humanity, saying, hey, you're involved with us. Do you have any ideas of where we should build the next house? Or do you have any potential candidates that we could look at that we haven't looked at before? Or in the case of a gaming charity, like, hey, are there some organizations or any of these other groups that we may not know about? And work with you to engage your communities in full. I mean, I think that's where it's the problem's at, is even bringing in one or two of us to put on your ads or, add our name to your stream. Well, that's cool. But then what are you doing beyond that? Like, you've kind of given the token recognition, but are you actively supporting what we're doing? Are you really trying to gauge our communities? Are you giving us the resources we need to help you succeed and raise more money? Like, that's what these groups need to be doing.
And like, it still is the roundabout conversation all over again, right? Because you're not even giving us those resources and stuff. But again, you're not giving us resources. You're not allowing us a foot in the door. You're not even helping us get on these areas where we can help you. And then you sit there sheepishly going, I wonder how we'll get more people of color. All of those things. All of those things in tandem with one another. And again, I can't stress it enough. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. There's gonna be discomfort, there's gonna be awkwardness, and I think it needs to be said too, as someone who is very, very like socially and politically active, you will misstep. I cannot stress that enough. You will misstep, and that is okay. What isn't okay is when you misstep and then you lash out on the people who are trying to help educate you on why you misstepped. And it's so frustrating to see like a genuine effort get just completely squandered because people are too engrossed in their egos and their feelings and everything else because, oh, well, I just feel like I'm never going to do anything right. I know we've had some people come through in chat that have caught the band hammer with the swiftness on the exact same ideology. Oh, well, we're never going to satisfy you. We're never going to make you happy. It's not
We're telling
about...
you how to make us happy. Put people of color in things.
Literally that, Ghana. It's literally that. You gotta do it these ways. And again, you're gonna misstep. I will not be shocked if it's somebody you just hired, a brand new social media person, and they went out and they made some tweet that's like, hey, where all my blacks at? Listen, I completely... because you know it's gonna... Because you know it'll happen. You know it will happen. And it's like, listen.
Oh, it has.
Yeah, let me talk to you to the side for a second. That's not this is not the way you the way you think it is. And it's that point that you need to take that as a learning opportunity to step back and say, "Oh, my bad," at the very bare minimum, or at the best being like, "I should do better. What can I do?" That's direct engagement and involvement with us. I see now that this is a mess up. What can I do? It's okay if you're going to mess up. It's going to happen. It's going to happen multiple times. Guaranteed. Again, the whole thing with War Groove, that whole hot disaster. It's not fixed. They already done pushed out the DLC and everything, but they learned something from it. You know, they said, we get it. We did the blind casting wrong and we're listening. And so you got to do it. But again, the very, very first step, always and forever, is to just put yourself out there. And yes, you're going to have to do things like POC only. Yes, you're going to have to do things like women only. Control did this, actually. And watching some of the vitriol that Control got for it was insane. But they were unwavering about it because Control specifically wanted to push out early access keys only to women. And they didn't even make like the largest ordeal about it. They just pushed them out and said, they pushed out the tweet that said, we are ecstatic to see and show that these awesome women creators are going to be showcasing our game for us. And the amount of vitriol and anger and hatred that crawled all over that thread. This is sexism. This is reverse sexism, which I don't do. I'm sorry, what? Reverse? You know, reverse racism was like the popular summer hit a few years ago, but reverse sexism might be the new Bob. Like, I'm sorry, what? That's not how that works. No. But you know
what, though? Like,
power
on
and
that topic,
people.
I just want to say what's crazy to me about that is like, if I'm a straight dude and somebody's going out and trying to reach out to a bunch of women to participate in the thing I enjoy participating in, that should be 100% win. Like, why the hell are you trying to stop that? Like, that don't even make no kind of sense.
To them. It's not going to them.
Exactly.
And we're not talking about me. I get very nervous when
Exactly.
Look, I am confused because are not me.
Yeah, that one. That one.
I'm confused. But and again, like I can turn all these into loops all day long because the other thing that's wild about it, especially from a gaming perspective and from a streaming perspective, it's wild that the same people who come in and they're like, oh, this is sexist that you gave this to only women, will also be the same ones to fix their keyboard hands to say, why aren't there more women in gaming?
Mm-hmm.
But they're all right there. Oh, well, those aren't real gamers. Dog.
You can't look for something.
Y'all
Dog.
ones
Three
can't
Xbox
satisfy it.
games.
Dog. Like you're
Yeah.
you're giving me real anxiety with this nonsense, okay? You can't say that we're unicorns that don't exist in the gaming sphere, and then when developers and publishers go above, beyond, and out of the way, like they should, to ensure that more women gamers get visibility, throw a whole temper tantrum about it. Okay, you can't keep doing it because it's counterproductive. It's honestly, just to put it very simply, it's useless. It's useless. You just want to complain because it are not about you. And that's all that comes down to. And it's, as we've said multiple times over, it's more gatekeeping nonsense. It's more just boys club tomfoolery, and no one has time for it. And the same thing happens in the streaming charity sphere too. Again, thank you for the donation. Oh my God, we're 6 hours away. That's exciting. The same thing happens in the charity sphere too. Like I said, oh, well, we don't want to do anything about that because that's a mentor. Dog, I don't care. If you want more women to feel safe, if you want people of color to feel safe, and you want people to actually feel like you care about the people you're bringing on board, you do something. And then you do things like push efforts to get more of us. And then you hire us. And then you don't go in with this whole, but we try to do things blind. Yeah, but you know what that pool looks like. I might have my master's in data analytics, but that's not something that requires high level education like that. That ain't nothing but taking 2 minutes and looking and being like, yeah, most of these applications are white dudes. You gotta actually, like, you have to embrace the discomfort.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna say this too. If you're gonna claim to be a fan of anything, but you are going to push back when they reach out to try to expand their customer base, which ultimately allows them to make more money, to be around longer, to make more of the thing you say you enjoy. You're full, what was the word we're using instead of cussing? Because I forgot what that was.
Sugar shoots.
There we go. You're full of sugar shoot. That's because that's what's going on. I mean, like, that's the whole reason these companies need to reach out to more people, so they can hire more people, so they can produce more of whatever game it is you're playing, so the revenue's higher. Like, and that's the right thing for them to do. But if you're gonna sit here and say, well, no, I like it the way it is, well, then expect that game to be gone in another 2 years.
Listen, I will pay money, literal, like, real money that I don't actually have, to have, like, more just even covers of games and stuff, to have not generic scruffy white dude.
Oh my God.
For sure.
Yeah.
Please, God, help me. No more.
I mean,
I don't want it.
Which Chris is this in the Avengers? There's so many.
I don't want it. I don't want it no more. No one want. We got white dudes coming through, be like, I don't want it no more.
and that bothers me as somebody who has to look through applications for for the stream team, and it's like every time we actually closed down the applications because, like, we just couldn't take it anymore, or I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, please stop. We gotta stop this, because for every woman, we get 8 white guys with a beard, and for every black person, we got 2 entire years worth of stream team. So it's like, I long for that moment where I can start looking at applications for people who are different instead of looking at the same person over again. Like, I get the application, look at the link, scroll down, Twitter, same nonsense, stream, same nonsense. Like, nothing is different. And that get, like, just for anybody, that gets boring. If I gotta look at the same thing over and over again for 2 years.
And again, looping it back to the charity stuff, it gets boring. It gets to a point where, like, because I constantly see that I am never ever welcome or included, I start losing motivation. I start losing that appeal and that fire and that energy and that passion, because it's like, I'm kind of just another tick mark to you.
And it's weird for me too, knowing that we have guilds in Detroit, we have guilds in New York, we've got a guild in Atlanta. There are big pockets of diverse people, and yet I look at all these guild photos, I talk to all these guild leaders, and, like, there's nobody there. Like Baltimore, where what are all the brothers and sisters at? Like,
And you and B
you
more.
guys not
Hairspray.
talk to them? Like, they have to be like right down the street. But even then, too, I mean, even with the onus still being on these organizations, I still feel like even the conventions, like they don't cater to a lot of us either.
Hang on, look, Harley Quinn in chat just said the same thing. We have an Atlanta guild?
We do. I know some of those people over there, and they are amazing people, but they all look the same.
And it's kind of
In Chicago,
oh,
like I had, because Denny knows that I'm the big Extra Life guy in the Cookout. He came to me and said, "Yo, do you know anybody in the Chicago part of Extra Life?" Because like, it just looked like, bro, what's going on? I was like, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. Like, there are big communities of diverse people, and nobody's reaching out to these people. It's amazing.
it's the exact same thing I brought up at the beginning, where people are like, we just don't know where we can recruit black people. I'm like, the literal Cookout exists. The literal Black Girl Gamers team exists. Like, are you for real right now? And I'm not trying to say that y'all not trying, but it gets to a stage where you start looking at it and it's like, but are you trying really? Because again, my feeds are loaded with all types of stuff. I have all types of indigenous peoples on my feed. I have all types of disabled people on my feed. I have Black Girl Gamers on my feed. I have Cookout on my feed. I have like all sorts of political affiliated people on my feeds. And they're just like, we don't know where to start. And I'm like, okay, I actually gave this advice to a team before it died. So let's start here. How many black people are you associated with, period?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's start there. Because if you're looking through, like, you have your little mentor or whatever, and you're looking through their entire friends list to see if there's any good hits, and you notice that it happens to be a little whitewashed, then maybe you don't want to look through that feed anymore. Maybe you need to start taking active efforts to looking into, where are the black people? Where are the women? Control just proved they can find women. It wasn't that hard. I know it wasn't that hard. All they had to do was keep going through streamer Twitter and keep going through Twitch and just make sure that they don't click the ones that ID as men. That's it. That's all you had to do. If there was a filter system and you could say man, woman, non-binary, or any other affiliation you want on there, you just uncheck man. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Just uncheck man. Look at all these streamers. Wow, right? Like, and I hear these conversations too, where they're just like, we just struggle knowing where to start. And it's like, it's because you don't even have anybody to start with. Like, this team in particular, they wanted to try and bring me on board, and I flat out cornered them and was like, but here's the deal. Where is the safety precaution in all of that? What benefits do I get from it? And why am I being bought? The big question, why am I being bought on board? And nobody could give anything better than, but we need better diversity. And it's like, okay, we've established that. We know that. That's not the problem. I need you to understand, why are you bringing me on board? And is it anything besides because you need more diversity? Because that's the other thing too, is you can't be shocked when we bring that to your attention and say, hey, you're just bringing me on board because I'm a check mark. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's all you're bringing me on board for.
What's the plan? Like, here's what we need from you. Like, we saw your stream
Right.
and we think you do this well for us. Or, you know, you engage with people this way positively on Twitter or whatever it is. And like, we want to use these aspects. Because it's okay to bring somebody in and say, okay, we're starting here because you're different. But we also saw you had these other skills.
And, you know, kind of echoing something that Linux had said, we're starting here and we're listening. Actually, Linux and Confetti have said this. We're starting here and we're listening. Don't bring me onto your ranks with the explicit end goal of being like, we have diversity. And then when I say, okay, cool, we need to talk about dude on team who's racist, and then it falls on deaf ears.
And or you doing all the work to do that thing, the thing that they should have done.
Yeah, that's that
before
support
they
piece
even
we've been
approached
talking about.
you. Yeah.
And Ooh, JW, you're petty. But that's what happens all the time. They bring you on. I actually was just talking about this on my Twitter threads too. One of the biggest fears I have walking away from this entire thing. I don't want to become that token. I don't want to become that person that, because the podcast is or isn't successful, now all of a sudden people want to be right here in my face and lean on me, and all of a sudden that like they're incapable of doing stuff themselves, or incapable of taking that information and working with it, or incapable of listening to everything we've just spent 2.5 hours talking about. Why watch the podcast if you're not going to take knowledge away from it? And you're just going to be like, well, based on what they're saying, we just need to go ahead and hire them and they'll get stuff started for us. No, dog.
No.
It has to be a collective effort. You have to bring me in and be willing to listen. You have to be willing to make those changes, make those adjustments, be willing to step back, and we've said it multiple times across all of us, analyze what you've been doing and why it's incorrect. Because if you're not willing to address that, all that's going to happen is you're going to bring me in, I'm going to make a suggestion, you're going to get very upset about it and be like, and all that stuff. You're not going to change it. And then I'm going to leave.
Or what may happen is they'll bring you, all right, well, you're talking about diversity and inclusion. That's just your thing. And then just leave you to it. We're going to do all this other stuff, but you'll have, look, if we've got a problem, we'll just run it by you, right? Like, that's your thing, right?
Then pay me double.
And then that's the same thing too,
Dude,
where
I'm
like
with
you
I
all
can
of a
be
sudden,
bought. You want to pay me double? I'll get.
I'll sit here and answer a question. But
Well,
yeah,
and that's the thing too, is that goes back to what we said earlier, is that now you are the arbiter for your entire population.
mm-hmm.
Like, no, I do not represent all black. Trust me, I do not represent all black people. I can talk to you about black problems, and I can talk to you about how I handle some of them. I can talk to you about what the black collective for the most part feels, but I can't speak for every black person, or in a lot of these cases, I can't speak for every person of color. What Ghana deals with is going to be completely different than what Confetti deals with. And you can't just grab one or the other and be like, oh, y'all got this, right? Dog, no. No, we don't. Like, you got to get into that mindset of stepping out there, make the moves, bring us on, listen, dear God, listen, and then clean it up.
Like, don't have
dear
me
God, clean
type
it up.
an essay in Discord while waiting to get my hair cut.
Yeah.
Like having to explain why these emotes, why these memes that are showing up in chat are racist and problematic, and then got me trying to explain myself.
Or
Don't-
go ahead. Sorry.
Don't make me do that, especially on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, I left my house on the phone in a bar, like sitting waiting to get my hair cut. So why did you do all this? Okay, so let me find you things that you should look up, but I'll find it for you because, I got 5 minutes before a barber. Find links, explain everything. Like, this is ridiculous. Why are y'all not putting in this work?
It's funny
I
how
don't-
you can use Google, but like they lose the ability to do that when they're
Ooh,
challenged. It's like all of a sudden Google just shuts down. What?
Their Google machines broke. You know that?
Things I've actually had whole threads about. Ghana, you were saying something. Oh no, you forgot it.
Oh. I know that I was gonna say, like, I think you touched on it, with problematic people on a team or working with problematic influencers. That's a big deterrent for me because I don't have time to correct, and especially if you're not gonna do anything about it. I think I'm good. I'll go find somebody else to work with.
Another thing I want to add to there, because we're getting close to wrapping up anyway. Another thing I'm going to add to there. When you bring us on, for the love of everything, do not wear us out for labor that you are not going to engage. For all of what we've been talking about, a lot of it is misunderstandings, lack of information, miscommunication, so on and so forth, and there's really no tea, no shade on it. But for that point in particular, that's where you'll start making people mad. You're going to make people mad. Don't ask me for labor and documentation and resources and info and all of this stuff. And then when I give it to you and I make the time and I give you the spoons and I give you the energy, just casually read some of it and go, well, I don't know if I agree with that. I didn't really ask you if you did or didn't agree with it. You asked me for my experience on this. I gave it to you, and then you just said, "Oh, I reject that." Dog, that's my experience. You can't just casually reject my experience because it doesn't fit your mold.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
And even when your experience is backed up by academia and, years of research and studies, still not believed.
But even then, if you're bringing this person on to help your group or charity or whatever, then you're bringing them on for their expertise too. And if this is what they're bringing to the table, then that's a thing you obviously didn't know about. If it's something that you immediately are concerned to reject without ever looking into it or researching it, like you're already showing where your blind spots are.
Right.
That's the whole reason you need this person in your organization.
And again, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be weird. There's going to be moments where we're going to be talking and you're going to feel yourself sitting in your chair slowly kind of doing this number because you didn't realize how bad it was. But that's okay. That's part of unlearning the issues around this. That's part of getting more of us in your streaming spaces. That's part of getting more of us to be like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and raise this money right quick. That's the part of it.
And I think for us too, like one takeaway that we need to take away as marginalized people is, sure, the five of us are brave enough to get up here and tell our experiences, tell it how it is. I feel like more people should be doing the same. Like up until a year ago, I was afraid to rock that boat because I didn't want to sit there and upset people. Because, then they won't like me no more because I made them feel bad. But learning that these are my experiences, they need to know. I am tired. I am exhausted of holding this by myself. Finally finding an organization where I can vent to. It's okay, all right, I can vent now. Now I need to go change some things. More of us need to get out there and start sharing our experiences, letting these communities know, this is for real.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had people erase my experiences with just medical care because they didn't have to do it. So don't erase my experience. Look, I may be good, I may be well off now, but I wasn't before. I was able to go to a doctor. Just because you were able to, don't mean I could.
There's a whole
Don't erase my experience.
conversation.
Don't erase experience of people who can't do what you do.
This is one of the ones that's going to be like my second passion project, most likely, is getting more mental health charities involved with Black people. Because to say that mental health, well, not even Black people of color in general, because to say that mental health accessibility to people of color is abysmal is an understatement. And so it's wild to me. Again, I love and adore To Write Love on Our Arms to pieces. But to not see them really take advantage of trying to expand on that specifically kind of hurts, because your whole thing is mental health and suicide prevention. I'm not saying go out for the next 2 months and read up on everything about Black mental health, about Indigenous mental health, about any type of person of color's mental health, about trans folks' mental health and all that stuff, but at least get a baseline so that you can understand why it's a necessity. Because that was something that I kind of struggled with a little bit too, was realizing that when it comes to mental health as it pertains to people of color, it's bad. We don't have resources. We don't have names, information, organizations, none of it. But I tell you what, if I see another dang blasted white person self-medicate themselves and then come through and be a rapper as a means of therapy, I will actually scream. Oh my God, he just stopped
I almost want to get up and testify.
What do you mean, dog? But the thing is, and they have the support structure to do stuff like that. We're not going to talk about all the layers of incorrect there, but they have the support structure to do stuff like that. And then I've got other people who need that support structure And
they can't even get to a doctor.
Right.
and that's stuff that we need to be focusing on, which again, if you have more black people in your organization, this isn't towards to write love on our arms. This is for everyone. If you have more black people in your organization, you know about stuff like that. You can work about stuff like that. You can work towards stuff like that. But again, you gotta
Google's
ask.
broken.
You gotta ask.
I just had another thought too, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it is also frustrating at times too when you see a charity choose to work with a person or group, and you have reached out, you didn't get the call back or whatever, and then you see them struggle or barely hit their goal or whatever, and the person or group they decided to work with didn't even put in a full effort. Like they weren't even out there really with their boots on the ground, reaching out to people. They might have put up a tweet once a week or something, and you're sitting there thinking, man, I'd have doubled down and done 4 times as much work if y'all had just given me a shot, and then going forward, you now kind of carry a little bit of animosity against them. So like if they come later, you kind of feel like, well, why now? Why did you ignore my group or me or my network previously?
Or like, how is it going to change?
Yeah, exactly. So by not even giving them the opportunity, you may be costing yourself future efforts with certain people.
I try to caution myself, and I can't speak for stream teams, but like with people, I try to caution myself against that animosity just for my own mental and spiritual health, because even though my hard work and my amount of effort that I put into something might look different for somebody else, and even though I might see like, oh, hey, like it looks like this person didn't even put their incentives together last minute. It could seem like that, but you never know. They could have been up all night doing that. So for me, regardless of who it is, if they're bigger or smaller or whatever, I try to caution myself against that, because one, that's just wasted energy and anger for me that could be directed someplace else that can make more of an impact. But also specifically for the person doing the fundraising, I actually don't know what their process looks like. So I try to caution myself against that, because maybe there's a relationship there between them and the charity that I might not be aware of because I don't sit in all those conversations too. So that's just for me personally. I don't try to put my energy into stuff like that, because it's just all those reasons I just explained, because I talk in circles.
No, there's nothing wrong with that, because believe me, I'm one of those people that if it don't work and the opportunity's not there, I'm just moving on to the next project anyway. I mean, I've got my hands in 4 or 5 things right now. So I can't really say much.
And besides, you write.
Yeah.
Okay. So, go ahead.
I did, however, remember what I was going to say.
Oh, how wonderful!
Like 5 discussions ago, but
no, you're fine.
Like for anyone who says like, where are the black people at? Where are my POC? Where are the women? Like, weird thing, we have started traveling in packs. So very often, like, you can go onto someone's Twitter and you can see, oh, what are they retweeting? Who do they follow? And most likely it's going to be more women. It's going to be more, like, I actually cannot point in my Twitter timeline where any straight people are. Like, I think I've kicked them all out at this point, because we're just like, oh, cool, this person's trans, this person's bi, this person is so very gay. And we follow that because it's really cool to be surrounded by people who are like you. Crazy idea. So if there's ever a moment where you're like, nah, black people don't exist, LGBTQIA people don't exist, go to Twitter, find one, and then you just like break open that beehive and just we flutter out. It's great. But it does take just that modicum of effort, the teensiest bit.
No, that's a good point. That's something I'm aware of it, but I didn't really think about it. But I mean, it's true. If I go to my Filipino friends or whatever, they've got, 50-60% of their group online is going to be Filipino people. Like,
yeah,
why not?
This is and this is how I found some of you too. Like, I think Linux, you're on the same team as me, so I've seen you around. Powrdragn, I found you through the survey, which I know was shared high and far, so you saw that. Confetti, I actually didn't find you initially through the survey. I found you through a TikTok that just was like a mood.
Oh, me and Sham did a TikTok. No, I forgot about that.
The mood on that TikTok. And then Ghana, I think I found you through a combination of like the survey and some of, I want to say, like indigenous Twitter and stuff. And that's why it's just like, I look at people and when they say they can't find you, so to speak, it's like, it's because you've never even tried to look for us though. I've had so many people crawl in my inbox. How can I expand my horizons on POC? And literally, I'm just like, well, hi, I'm one. And then two, here's groups that you can follow. Here's entire populations you can hang out with. And after I've given you that information, when you choose to do absolutely nothing with it, first of all, one, we know. We know you haven't done nothing with it. Ain't no way you haven't done anything with it because you would have came back and said something. You always do when you do it. So one, I know you haven't dealt with it. You haven't done anything. And then two, it just immediately shows me that your interest in actually diversifying is nil. It doesn't exist. I can't tell you how many communities I sit in on with the explicit end goal of listening. I don't even engage it because I don't know about it. I want to learn more about it. And it's not my lane. It is not my lane. So I just sit there and I listen and I learn and I just absorb all that information. And then when people come through on my timeline and want to be like, hey, I have a question about Jewish heritage. I'm like, ooh, not mine, but I can help you get to the right people, you know, and stuff like that. So, well, do you have any good disabled people to follow? Oh, I have like 5 off the top of my head. Here are their links and all this other stuff. So yeah, it really does have to be an effort on your behalf too. Yes, we need to reach out and make sure we have our packs joining with us. Ghana, that's like such an important point too. We need our packs to join with us and come with us. And when we get there, be like, hey, come on in here. Mm-hmm. But the footwork needs to be made to get us in there in the first place.
Hold that door open.
You gotta hold the door open. And again, ask. And after that, move.
Step out the way.
So, with all that said, we've gone over a little bit. We've gone over we only went over about 5 minutes. We didn't talk too much.
We're good.
I tried real hard.
I was like, listen, because I'll talk forever and a day. So with that being said, I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you again, first and foremost, to all the guests who came out today. Confetti, especially, I wanted to say thank you because you were such a last-minute addition. You saved my bacon and you are a blessing. But on top of that,
anytime.
Still thank you to everybody who took the survey. If you're out in the audience and you took the survey, thank you for taking the survey. Thank you for your participation. I immensely appreciate you engaging it and giving me your honest, at least I'm assuming it's honest feedback on everything. And I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about what it's like to be a part of charity streaming in this space as a person of color. Because I don't think that a lot of people really reflect on all that stuff. They just see charity streaming and go, okay, give it money. It's like, no, there's lots of work to be done there.
There's politics. There's a lot of politics in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done there. Thank you to everybody who also came by and hung out. Immensely thank you for that. Thank you to the wonderful people from Twitch who were generous enough to get us a delightful spot on the front page. I will never be able to live up to this hype again. I have no idea what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to start stream tomorrow and be like,
hey
guys, welcome back to 20 CCB town. What's Gucci? Type of thing. You know,
hey, 1,600 people watching. We got to do it again.
Well, obviously. And I do plan on, with how this one went, I do want to try and get more conversations going. I'm not sure how I'm going to get those going, but I'm pretty sure I'll figure something out because I'm stubborn and that's what I do. And thank you again to the Cookout for allowing me to host on the channel. I appreciate it immensely. To all the people who volunteered to be mods, you are appreciated. Appreciated. Oh my gosh, appreciate it. And last but definitely not least, thank you to everyone who donated this evening. We started out at $55 dues and we are ending the evening at $550, and I'm okay with it.
Oh dang,
that's awesome.
$5 in this. We say we rose $500 tonight, just even.
Yeah, $500
oh
even.
God.
I would say we raised a solid $500 even, and yeah. Oh no, see, like I said, I've been all over. I've been here, and I'm just like watch everything constantly. Oh, there's a donation. Thank you. type of
I do
thing.
want to say that it's not the last thing. The last thing is, Twisted, thank you. Thank you so much for organizing this, like from the
Beat me to it.
beginning. Like just doing this whole thing. Like this needed to be talked about. And again, like individually, we could all just sit there be screaming to our respective charities, to our respective communities. But you bringing us all here today for us to collectively amplify each other's voices, to get this on the front page
Oh my god.
is
Yeah.
beyond amazing. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Cookout too, thank you so much for doing this. We really do appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, you have no
yeah,
idea.
I want to say
like,
for sure.
huh?
I definitely want to say the same thing and echo that sentiment because I've put events together before, even small ones. They still take a lot of effort. You know, you were wrangling people. We had to change guests a couple times. You know, and you were able to put all that together practically seamlessly for those who don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So, you know,
There was
that's
a
just
lot of
an amazing effort.
There was a
you
lot
know?
of
And
running
again,
and screaming involved.
thanks to the Cookout, you know, for just giving us this platform and the opportunity. And honestly, thanks to the stream, there was a lot of good interaction. My phone's been blowing up over here. I guess there's a bunch of follows happening on things. I don't know.
I
Oh,
may
same
or
here. I'm just like, oh no.
I may or may
Yeah.
not have forgot to turn off my alerts from my channel, so you can I can hear it ever so faintly when I get a follow, and I'm like,
but it's good. It says that this was something that people were interested in. There's a lot of opportunity to get this message out there. There's a lot of people that want to follow up for extra content. And like I said, I would genuinely, when this is done and uploaded, use this as a resource that you can give to people or anybody you know that's going to be involved with a charity or a project or whatever. Give them this link and say, hey, here's a 2-hour video. Go check it out. Get informed. Find out where your blind spots are. Find out what you're missing. Find out how to engage these groups you don't have a foothold with, and really give yourself a better opportunity for all of your fundraising.
If you're a POC who does charity work, should pin this to the top of your Twitter.
Yep.
Keep that there for a bit.
And then hit us up because I bet you get some good work out of all 5 of us.
mm-hmm. I like helping, as you can see. So it's like, you have no idea. The end of this stream this evening, I called off of work tomorrow and I said, I'm putting on my bonnet and I'm going to bed.
Oh, I don't even get to do that. I'm 20 minutes away from setting up to record our podcast for the week, and then I got to do editing late into the evening. So
I
I'm
will
gonna-
trade either
I'm
of
gonna
you.
be nonstop, yo.
And then
I
go
will
ahead,
trade
Ghana.
either of you. I have my last day of school before winter break with junior high students tomorrow.
Oh, exciting.
Oh, there you go.
Exciting.
Ooh, pass. Hard
I don't
pass.
like it.
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't like it. Mm-mm.
I love my job. I love my kids, but boy, howdy, am I ready for break.
That's what I was like. I don't
I
like
feel
it.
you.
Mm-mm. I don't like it.
Good.
I think you win.
Alrighty. Well, with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and let everybody go. We sound like we're all busy people that have things and stuff to deal with anyway. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. I hope you got a lot of knowledge out of it and that you found it to be a worthwhile endeavor. And who knows, we might do one in Faded Black History Month because that's how time would let it happen. But we'll figure something out. We'll do more of this. We'll do
Wait,
more
what
of
if we
this.
let the white people talk for 1 month and then like POC for too much?
We should find somebody to
Okay, we'll let them
break.
talk for 1 day.
We should find somebody to break. just get
All
on
right, who
down,
we
get on
rating?
down the road.
Oh my gosh. So I saw that Pikachu Lita was in chat, so I don't know if she's on right now.
Yeah, I think she signed on briefly to see what was going on, poked the head in. Hey, I have to go. Let's see. Story mode Bay is live. Data Dave.
Should we keep it alive with the charity? Because Data Dave's charity.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a charity mood and giving mood already.
Yeah.
Let's go to Data Dave. Let's go to Data Dave, who's also a Cookout member, and he's also an Extra Life ambassador.
Yes, he is.
Delightful. Awesome. So,
Do
again,
we have a link?
thank you everybody for coming by and hanging out. I
It should put
appreciate
it in the
all of
chat.
you immensely, and we will see you in the near future. Not sure what we're doing, but we'll see you. So I'm gonna put up the end screen now, so y'all can't see us no more though. Thanks for hanging out. I greatly, greatly appreciate it, you guys. And have a
Yeah.
good rest of your evening. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we're officially offline.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.